I've been thinking about laws on Mars. There's an international treaty saying that no country can lay claim to anything that's not on Earth. But another treaty, if you're not in any country's territory, maritime law applies. So Mars is international waters. Now, NASA is an American non-military organization. It owns the HAD. But the second I walk outside, I'm in international waters. So here's the cool part. I'm about to leave for the Shrippanally crater, where I'm going to commandeer the Ares 4 lander. Nobody explicitly gave me permission to do this, and they can't until I'm on board the Ares 4. So I'm going to take over a craft in international waters without permission, which by definition makes me a pirate. A space pirate.
I can't explain why I love that quote so much.
Hey, he is the first space pirate too. I mean, he does first the whole time, but being the first space pirate's like...
Yes.
It's like what every little boy wants, is to be called a space pirate at some point in their lives. I mean, it's a mic drop right there.
There's a whole anime called Bodacious Space Pirates, which I'm trying to get these guys to watch. Jesus Christ, what are you going to do?
Well, maybe we can cover it, you know?
It's on the list, dude. Scroll down a bit. Intro, it is waiting for you.
Hello. Welcome to Mars, as you can see here. I am your host, Admiral Happy Ending. I mean, Robert.
And I'm Ray, the mad scientist. Apparently I'm mad. I'm not angry, just a bit, you know.
And if you're wondering, where's Chaos?
He's in the spacesuit in the background. He's modeling for us.
He is he's running a little late. Hopefully we can get him for this episode, but if not, you know, we can go Chaos Chaos Lab? Is that what terminology we use a lot?
I don't think you can do a recording on the internet without having some chaos.
Yeah, that's very true. But for this episode, I don't think it would do it justice if we don't have a guest.
Oh, definitely.
Woohoo.
And we brought in, we're lucky enough to get Nate from the Sci-Fi Throwdown podcast. And it's a podcast that I recently got turned into lately, and I've been listening to the episodes. And just to give you a perspective from my point of view, and I'm going to let Nate tell us a little bit about his podcast and introduce himself. But is sci-fi about books, and I am all about that. So Nate, thank you so much for coming on our show. Can you tell our audience about your podcast and where they can listen in?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. I've listened to your podcast for quite a while. But yeah, I am one half of the podcast Sci-Fi Throwdown. I'm Nate, and my partner is Chris, who couldn't make it tonight. But what we do is we read, interpret, and talk about science fiction and science fiction adjacent literature. Our backgrounds are in philosophy and maybe to a lesser extent literary criticism. So we go sort of in depth on some of the books we read. A lot of the time we'll spend 2 weeks on one, maybe a total of 2.5 hours or so. But yeah, we just started out. We've maybe been around for 6 months and got in touch with these guys over at Sci-Fi Remnant, and they've been great so far. So once again, thank you for having me. And you can find our podcast Sci-Fi Throwdown on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much the normal places.
Awesome. And I'm gonna tell you out there who, if you're listening, and especially if you are watching us on YouTube, you can pause us. You know, you all know the drill. We're a long format podcast, so we won't be mad. Go ahead and pause us. Go and search for Sci-Fi Throwdown. Listen to a couple of episodes and come back. We'll be waiting. We'll be here.
By the way, it's Sci-Fi Throwdown. Second. Yep.
Correct. Yeah. It's got the cartoon alien
there.
and the cartoon robot watching or reading a book.
I just added it because Admiral Happy Endings forgot to send me the...
I'm sorry.
So I just added you myself, mate. You're on my list now, mate.
All right, I appreciate it, Ray. Thank you. Yeah, we're finishing up our treatment of Lovecraft.
One more subscriber. One more.
Yes.
Our downloads went from 250 to 251.
Yes. Nice.
It's progress.
And Ray, I can see in
Mm.
the atmosphere of Mars, among the dust clouds and all this stuff, there is
Yeah.
a question hovering. You see it?
There's
There's
a question hovering. Is that what have you been watching lately? Oh man, I was so busy lining Nate up on my podcast. I forgot to ask the question.
Nice.
So, guys, what have you been watching in sci-fi lately? I mean, if you haven't been watching any sci-fi, just what have you been watching? But
I'll go first.
yeah, Star Trek. Yeah, I know. Anyway, Nate, what have I don't know if you know. You probably know if you've been listening to our podcast, but every week it's the same thing. Well, we're watching Star Trek at home, so it's like, yeah, okay, right.
Yeah. You need chaos to break the order of that consistency.
Mm. Oh, he watches all sorts.
I'm going to end it soon, so it's going to end sometime. It might take a year, but it's going to end. The list is going to end, right?
Yeah, there are a finite number of Star Trek episodes right now.
He's not even halfway through, I don't think.
I am.
If your work cut out for you, then I suppose.
So we are on season 4 of Deep Space Nine. Right now, that's all we're watching.
I was really disappointed there were no Deep Space Nine movies. I was so looking forward to them.
Yes, me too. It was a great show. It really was. And Nick, do you have anything that you are currently into?
Yeah, I've been watching For All Mankind on Apple TV, and it's, for those who don't know, it's kind of an alternative history retelling from the 60s in a different timeline where the Soviets land on the moon prior to the United States. And the aftermath of that involves the space race never really ending. And I'm thinking about 2 seasons in, and I got a lot to go, but it's very well done. The characters are well crafted, and it highly recommend it.
Awesome. And the mad scientist.
I suck. I watch too much anime.
Have you?
It's okay to say Star Trek.
I have. I mean, I've watched a lot of Star Trek, not recently, but I have watched a lot of Star Trek. Just trying to think, was there anything? I mean, I'm always saying Shangri-La Frontier, but that seems to be the only sci-fi I've been watching recently.
Well,
they had a whole episode with a battle in front, like the guy's trying to get into a town, and they had a whole episode that was just a fight. That was it. It was so Dragon Ball Z. It's not funny.
Fight. Nothing happens. Fight. Nothing happens. Yeah.
Well, there was a few flashbacks with filling in people's reasons and how they got there and stuff. But I mean, it didn't progress very far. I was like, God, if it's going to take that long, we're not going to get very far through the light novels. To by the end of the 12 episodes. So yeah, they need to crank it along a bit. But yeah,
nice.
I don't know if you know what Shangri-La Frontier is, Nate, but there's actually quite a few animes this season, like ones that are airing in Japan right now, that you can get through, Crunchyroll and various other platforms. But they're based around people's experiences in VR MMOs. So VR MMOs were sort of made a famous concept by Sword Art Online, which was way back in the early teens. But for some reason, 2023 equals VR MMO stories. So everybody's like, for quite a few years, it's been isekai. I don't know if you know what isekai is, but it's basically, getting hit by a truck and ending up being reincarnated in another world, either just thrown into somebody's body as they die, or taking somebody's body over, or being reborn in another world. And the odd occasion being transported there for some reason or other. But it's a big sort of genre. But all of these people are playing VR MMOs. So it's like you put the headset on and you lie down and you feel all of the sensations of being in a computerized world and run around in it. But it's very gamey. So it's like,
Okay.
consoles and
Yeah.
things to deal with. So it's usually fantasy, but not always. And it's very gamey. So, consoles pop up and it's all about levels and power levels and weapons with pluses and all that sort of stuff. But
defeat this boss, then this boss.
Yeah. But I mean, we're actually past the point in history now where they said VR MMOs were going to be a thing. So technology hasn't quite kept up with their expectations, but I'm looking forward to them getting there one. I mean, we've got, what was that thing you posted recently? Hang on. I won't go there. I'll let you press the button and then we'll go there. Because I'm actually segueing into the next segment.
Okay, so
right
that is a really good segue. Thank you so much.
It works.
Here we go. Next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Chord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
And if you're new to the show,
you're going to have to squeeze Sci-Fi Throwdown in there somewhere too.
Yes. All to do is they have to send me a clip.
Yeah.
But if you're new to the show, this is Sci-Fi. It's a segment that we dedicate on this podcast to show you the importance of the hashtag This is Sci-Fi. So basically what it is, this was originated in our season 1, where we want to create a hashtag where you would post and you would read about the stuff that you love the most. You have a particular sci-fi love, right? Just like any other person would have a different sci-fi love. And my problem at the time was the fact that I was finding the silos, but I wanted to be in the place where everybody was in. And the benefit of that is when you run out of that one thing that you love and you have that basic sci-fi empty heart and you're looking for the next thing to watch, that's what this is come in handy, because you would hear about the passion of other people with their specific IP, and you would actually give it a try, and you don't know, you might find something that you love in addition to that one thing that you like. If you are a creator, you could be a podcast creator, a film creator, like we had in the past on our show, writers, post your thing, post your baby, your creation out there. So the people that are following the This is Sci-Fi hashtag will actually encounter and they might have discovered your work. And of course, if you are a sci-fi fan, it's the best place to be at, because you can post your stuff. I lately have been posting not only sci-fi related stuff, but this show, we cover the scientific aspect of the things as well. So you'll find a lot of articles in there that might be of the scientific realm, that you could see how they could relate to a specific sci-fi IP. So,
or it could relate to current science.
Exactly.
Like the stuff you've been posting.
Exactly. So
the line between the two is blurring.
Yes. And that's what I love about, that's the one thing I love about science fiction, is the fact that this is kind of like a thought experiment that lets us grow scientifically. And that's basically the basis of science, is the what if. Okay, this might do this, let's do an experiment, let's see what that goes to. And it might not be what you originally thought it would be, but that gives you the information to start the research and eventually come up with the real truth, and maybe come up with technologies that we not otherwise would have had if it wasn't for that research. So I don't know, Nate, if you had any experience on the This is Sci-Fi hashtag, so you're welcome to chime in and see what your perspective. We really look forward to perspectives of someone new to the hashtag.
Okay.
To me.
Yeah, I think the most recent topic that I was exposed to on the hashtag, and I don't think it was on the hashtag, but it was going around on threads for a while. Was this book published by his name? Solosky, the neurobiologist from Stanford. And I think this is how we made contact initially, is talking about this a little bit. But he's a neuroscientist, and he's arguing that from a physical perspective, free will is a myth. And it's just impossible. It doesn't exist. And the only reason we can't sort of predict everything that's going to happen to us at a very detailed level is that we just don't have the scientific understanding for it yet. And this theory has been around for a while, but more recently, there has been a lot more scientific evidence for it. And he's sticking by his guns, and he's a Stanford professor, so he should be at least taken seriously. And what interested me about that discussion is what happens to ethics if there's no free will. And of course, my background would inform that discussion. But yeah, I don't quite know what to do with that yet. I think the answer to it is rather complicated.
Yeah.
But, so that's what I got. I think that I'm pretty sure that was on the hashtag at some point, but it was a while ago.
Yeah, it's
But it's
one of
something
the.
that did interest me.
I posted that article in.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you 100%. Yes.
I could wax lyrical about that point, but that's not what we're here for.
Right.
And Ray, did you have any before I go into the one that I want to point out, but did you have anything that you want to call out from the This Is Sci-Fi hashtag?
Oh, one thing that I feel is overlooked a lot about sci-fi as a genre is the soundtracks, because I have, I've had multiple CDs back when CDs were more of a thing, covering multiple IPs of movie soundtracks. Some of the classics like Star Trek: The Motion Picture, with the Klingon theme from that movie, which just sticks in my head. Like the earworm is just amazing. The Star Wars Empire Strikes Back with the music from the asteroid field. And I just say these things and the music starts playing in your head, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, that music is so iconic. And I feel like it's overlooked a lot these days. I don't know whether it's, that they just don't put the money aside to have good soundtracks. I know that there's a lot of people in the Alita army that are absolutely bonkers about the Alita soundtrack, which was very good. Junkie XL did an amazing job on that one. But that was 2019. And I just don't remember any recent sci-fis that had really striking soundtracks. So if you can name some, let me know, because I'll check them out. But that's the Scuttlebutt. On November 11, released a podcast about the top 5 sci-fi movie soundtracks. Haven't listened to it yet, but I think I need to check that one out, because it's a topic that I happen to like. Love those sci-fi soundtracks, especially the ones that get stuck in your head.
Yes. Yep.
So are we talking original music compositions or something like the soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, I mean, they both have their good points, but I think it's more you tell somebody the scene and they hear the music playing in their head, or you hear the music playing in their head and you close your eyes and you see the scene. It's the thing that they're tied intrinsically to each other, and it's really part of the science fiction feeling is the music. And I always think that a good soundtrack disappears into the background but is integral. Because it is part of what you're experiencing.
Right. It's an integral part of creating the ambience. And in science fiction, especially when you get outer space scenes, like the asteroid one that you mentioned in, I think it was Empire, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the same scene without the ambience that's created by that soundtrack and that piece of
without you turn the soundtrack
without any
down,
soundtrack.
you just watch it and it's like
yeah, it kind of did. Huh?
It takes a lot away from it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so that That's the kind of stuff that you find if you follow that This Is Sci-Fi hashtag, and we welcome the conversation. As an addition to that too is our Discord channel. So if you want to have those conversations, it could be something that we have said in the past, something that you want us to say in the future, or you have any hate mail for our very own Captain Chaos.
He's happy to collect it.
Yeah, he's very happy to collect it. So
hey, can I do the thing?
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you would like to leave some hate mail or hate comments or whatever, we have a phone number. It's 1
Oh my God, you have such a phone number.
563 6334. That's 1 305 563 6334. Our answering machine is standing by to take your call.
Yes. So the interesting thing about
You had
that,
to go in there.
the interesting thing about that is, and I think it's really cool, is if you leave a message and it's a topic they want to talk to, we can actually play it on future episodes, and we can have a conversation about that one topic that you want to talk about. So you could leave a message at that number, and you could be in our next episode. Awesome. So are we ready for the segment without Captain Chaos?
I think we'll survive. He's running quite late, actually. We're expecting him here already.
Yes. So here we go.
Shoutouts.
And for this episode's shoutouts, I have only a couple. I want to call out Cinema Recall. It's amazing the kind of support that we get, not only in retweets on liking our post, but also the collaboration. And I haven't forgotten about it. We will have Cinema Recall on our episodes, on our show soon. We're still working out the details. But every time there's any conversation or any episodes that he released that calls out for our input, he's always tagging us. So just wanted to say thank you for the interaction and the engagement. We really, really appreciate it. Also,
hang on, you skipped over one of the points you've got under shout outs. I just noticed.
I did.
Weren't you going to shout out NASA?
I am. Yes, I am doing it in order. So.
I just didn't want you to miss them out. Thanks, NASA.
So the other shout out that I have is I was lucky enough to be on another live stream. It is the Alita live stream for 11:10. And this is where we were discussing why is Rosa Salazar perfect to play Alita. It is currently on YouTube right now, so you can go ahead and search for it, and you can listen to that. Really great conversation.
It's on the Creek Indian #Alita Army channel.
Yes, and it's a great conversation, and I get to geek out about science in there. So I really appreciate the invite. Unfortunately, we couldn't all be there. It's kind of like a party when we join in, but it was fun enough. So thank you guys for inviting me, and you guys don't forget to check them out.
I was going around garage sales at the time.
Yeah. Another shout out that I have that it took me by surprise, and I did do a post and a retweet on that. Feedspot.com had a list of best 100 sci-fi shows, and we are number 6 on that list. So
hey, look what's appeared. It's a wild chaos.
We have a problem.
I feel an injection of chaos coming very shortly. Although it looks like he's having camera problems again.
We wouldn't have chaos without it. So
that's right. Chaos has got to bring the chaos, so it's just not chaos.
So yes. So what I was saying, this is what happens. Chaos comes in, we lose track of everything. So I want to really appreciate. I really, really appreciate FeedSpot for for the list and the promotion to that list. And I want to thank the fans basically and everybody listening, because there's no way I could possibly rig it, just one person to be number 6. So I really, really appreciate it, because the reason why we're number 6 is because of you. And I really, really appreciate that. Thinking of us and liking our show, and keep the engagement going. We really like the conversation. The older, okay, we have chaos with echo.
Echo. I don't have to mute it. All right, guys. I mean, I could have missed this movie, but I had somebody with a flat tire, nobody else to call.
You didn't call Ghostbusters? Oh no, that was last week. Sorry.
No, I mean, Ghostbusters could help you bust a tire, not to fix it.
Yeah.
Yep, there they go.
Nice.
Oh, awesome. So yeah, what I was saying, thank you so much, everyone that was a part of that poll, for making us number 6 podcast in the 100 best sci-fi in feed spot. Thank you so much for that. And this is not so much as of a shout out, but I really want to call out the NASA Artemis program.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can go into nasa.gov and get more information. This movie has a lot to do with what NASA is trying to do. And I think we live in a very exciting times where we have the possibility that our humanity can transcend a planet. And this is very, very exciting to me, as a human and as a sci-fi fan. So don't forget, go into nasa.gov and get all the information about the Artemis program. And before I move out of this, I don't know if Chaos has anything else that he wants to shout out on his segment that I'm doing.
Well, I'm gonna have to. I write it to the notes. Don't worry, Robert. I will write
Okay.
it to the notes. But I wanted to give a shout out again to Jacked Up Reviews. It was so fun to be in their show, and it's always fun to listen to them. Sam is the best, man. And we talk about a movie that is like a classic of all times, Jaws.
And we are going to be, well, I don't know if you haven't given me your response yet. Maybe you haven't had time to look at it, but he invited us for another show,
Oh, nice.
Star Wars. So yeah,
Nice. Perfect.
awesome.
It's on.
Okay, so that concludes the this segment, and we gotta go to the next segment, but I gotta do it with style because I know our very own mad scientist loves he loves when I do
The Alita Army News.
Is it exciting or ominous?
It's exciting, man. Come on. It's double exciting because basically
It's like final boss exciting.
you gave some of the elite armies. I mean, I comment on the live stream that I host, US East Coast Saturday around 4 p.m. Once daylight saving has done its thing and buggered off. But you guys, was it both of you or just Robert that went on the Alita live stream the day before?
This was the 1110.
The one, the one that you went on.
Yeah, it was just me.
That was just you. Chaos was too chaotic, couldn't make it.
You know that I am hard to get. You guys are privileged.
That's what the women tell me.
Friends on.
That's what she said. Anyway, so there's two Alita live streams. One on a Friday night US, one on a Saturday night US. And I'm usually hosting the one on Saturday night US. Although I let Angelus have this one. It was episode 188, the Rosa Salazar Appreciation Committee 2023 report. Basically, they were waxing lyrical about how wonderful Rosa Salazar is and talking about what she's been doing recently and some of her older work, and basically massive slideshows about how awesome and full of uru she is. So I just let them go, and they basically salivated over her for about an hour and a half. It was, I mean, if you like Rosa Salazar, it was great. That was Radio Chaos episode 188. That was just before the recording of this episode. So that's what was happening there. There have been a couple of news reports recently saying that the sequel is now in pre-production, but I believe it's pre-production pending green lighting. So basically storyboarding and getting ready to convince Disney to hand over the shekels to make the sequel. So presuming that goes well, we might hear an announcement before Christmas, maybe. They were waiting for the strike to end, the writer's strike. So
I want the Alita universe.
Oh yeah. Hey Nate, have you seen the movie Alita Battle Angel?
I'm not very familiar with Alita at all. I know
we need to rectify this issue.
Yeah.
So I've heard. Yeah,
it is great.
I've heard it's essential viewing
sci-fi.
for. I've heard it's essential viewing for having much to do with your show and maybe in the science fiction podcast community. So I don't know if you guys have oversold it or not, but I'll definitely take a look. It sounds pretty cool.
And he's a scientist. And he's a scientist. The ones that use the white robes.
Well, let's just say that I have a long history with the IP. I started reading the manga when it was translated into English in about '93.
Wow.
And the mangaka is still drawing / writing it, so it's still going. But he's into the third series now, so he's completed 2 series and the third series going. But it's a fantastic post-apocalyptic, cyberpunky sort of. Let's say that he doesn't treat his main characters very well.
Okay.
They do a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
Well, you had me at cyberpunky. I'm all over that.
Nice.
I mean, you watch the movie, you'll go, I want more, and then everybody who just can't wait for a sequel goes to the manga. So,
right.
But
and the next thing you know, I have no free time left at all.
Thanks to Ray. It's always thanks to Ray.
It's always my fault. I mean, I turned these 2 into anime nerds. That was my fault too.
But I have an important question for our very own Captain Chaos. Where were you? What was your first impression when the Alita was translated in '93?
I can't hear him. Are you muted?
He's probably muted.
Yes, I muted myself because I was having echo. By then, I probably just could have said Gugu Gaga. Nah, I'm just kidding. But I was too little. I didn't get into manga until like 2008. And it was like digital manga. I actually read a bunch of digital manga before I touched an actual manga. How sad is that?
I will say that pretty much anything that Yukito Kishiro draws is pretty goddamn brutal. So be aware of that, listeners and Nate.
Why you told me that? Like, you know that's what I like.
I know. But it's ultra-violent cyberpunk. Post-apocalyptic cyberpunk. Yeah, I mean, price of admission.
Yep. Your feelings cannot be distilled to write it right.
In fact, it might take me a moment to find it, but there's actually a crossover that I did now.
Oh, wow.
Where did I put the goddamn thing? Where is it? Quickly. I make these people wait. We do these little things to add value to the video, so people will come back and watch the video. It comes out a month later after the podcast drops, so people can see us being stupid and find out what the tick is saying and see little video addition. There it is.
Yeah, so
I get a lot of
don't-
video of me rubbing my eyes because my contacts are dry.
Oh, you had the whole
Yeah.
day with him.
Yeah, probably should have put in my glasses, but what are you gonna
Yeah, that's what happens, bro.
do? Oh
That-
my!
Oh, nice,
That
nice.
is awesome. That is awesome. Alita is Martian, so you know.
She is. She's from Mars, so it fits.
But
Yeah,
but
that-
but her karate, her kung fu
Pants-
technique
pants
is a
are cunts.
it's a plagiarized Wing Chun.
Well, yeah, it borrows a lot from all over the place. But yeah, so yeah, Alita is a Martian. So,
Yeah, the idea of a space pirate does come to mind when
oh yeah.
thinking about that. Yeah,
You
Space
imagine,
pirate.
you imagine
Is that
if
coherent?
Alita was,
Consistent?
huh?
Space pirate Alita. Is that consistent with the character?
No, they're more like she's
really?
part of
Okay.
a militia group, if I'm not mistaken. A guerrilla.
Well, she
For
was,
freedom.
She's actually part of a group of assassins.
Okay.
And
So more
and sort
ninja
of-
than pirate.
Yeah,
I thought that she was part of the Pancho Villa's crew in Mars. For freedom to the Alamo.
No.
well, was that in Mars?
Look, I could give you like an hour and a half background because I've read the thing like so many times, but I won't. We have another Martian to talk about here today.
Oh, do we?
The one that actually grows potatoes out of his own poop.
Hey, look, if you had the choice of starving to death or eating poop
Hey,
potatoes,
I
what
would have
would
done
you
the
pick?
same. I would have done the same, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would have died probably because I wouldn't have known how to mix it with the soil properly because it's not all 100% manure. So I would have probably messed it up.
The fact that the waste disposal system vacuum packs little poop baggies is kind of amusing too.
Yeah.
Right, with everyone's name on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is mine. See, this is
Your
mine.
poop.
I love that he had the two earplugs up his nose.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. The whole time he's cultivating
that's not
everything.
how those are supposed to work. Anyway, just put your spacesuit on, you dickhead. Then you won't have to smell it.
Oh God. Yeah. I agree with you on that one.
Except don't put the helmet on that's got the gaff tape on it. Not gonna help.
So, are we ready for this episode? I feel like we never are.
We'll work it out. It's chaos. It's pure chaos.
So, this episode has been on our blacklist for a while, and it took our very own Captain Chaos because he figures, we can do a lot more chaos, bringing this out of our blacklist. And there you go. If you are not watching this on YouTube, I suggest you go into our YouTube channel, subscribe, and ring the bell. That way you'll know what's going on the screen and how everything got quiet with this sticker. But I am not going to say a thing. So you guys gotta wait. If you're listening to the pod on your podcatchers, you gotta wait about a month and it will be released on our YouTube channel. So this movie, we decided to bring it out. And the reason why we have a blacklist, there's a list of movies that I am afraid to bring out only because we have so much to say. Since we're already a long format podcast, I'm afraid that this episode could turn out to be 4 or 5 hours. And that's the reason why we have those movies on the blacklist. But, chaos being chaos says that let's do this one. And we being minions decided, why not?
I've got more than one eyeball. What are you talking about?
So, this movie is amazing, and it's very easy to understand why Mars has caught the fascination of humanity, and in that the sci-fi community as a whole. It has a lot of fascination. The existence of Mars as a wandering object in the night sky was recorded by the ancient Egyptians astronomers. And this is kind of like, they're probably wondering what that was, but by the second millennium, They were familiar with the apparent retrograde motion of the planet, in which it appears to move in the opposite direction across the sky from the normal progression. And
It actually does a loop. It does a U-turn and goes back the other way.
yeah,
I
yes.
confused the shit out of them for a good couple of millennia.
Yes, definitely. So, we have in science fiction, I couldn't tell you how many. I mean, the list is way too many to even list. But one of my love has been the entire series from Edgar Rice Burroughs, the Chronicles of Mars. We
11 books.
No, 12. And I'll die on that one.
He'll die on that hill.
I'll die on that hill. 12 books. I don't care. So I read all the books, and I think I roped Gio into reading, but I don't know that he got all the way to in his case, 11 books.
Hey, we've done that movie.
But we actually have that episode on our season 1, which is still one of the most downloaded episodes that we have on the show. So the fascination with Mars is always been there. And to me, and this is before we go to the plot. Yes, we have a plot. The fascination to me, I feel like a kid in a toy store, because there's a very strong possibility that fascination, with a human stepping on a foreign planet's, for the first time, not moon, but planet. It has a potential of becoming a reality.
Not only a unknown planet, but very hostile in all the sense of the matter, which makes it more perilous for our character, the Martian.
Well, to be fair, the moon is pretty hostile as well. I mean, in a lot of the same ways, but it's not so far away.
Exactly.
Yeah, true.
I mean, you could argue the fact that the moon might be a lot more dangerous, but the thing is that the distance between us and Mars makes it a lot more dangerous than the moon.
I think that I would argue right away that the moon is less dangerous because there are not sandstorms at hundreds of kilometers per hour in the moon.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's just no oxygen and trees or anything, but you don't have a storm that is going 70, 80 kilometers per hour.
I have something to say about the storms, right?
Me too,
This is
actually.
something that kind of bothers me about the movie, kind of. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. The strongest Martian storm recorded was only about 60 miles per hour wind.
Insane.
That's not enough to cause the damage that we see in the film, is it?
Mhm.
Or am I mistaken?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
I mean, if it becomes a sandstorm, what it doesn't make sense is tornadoes and things like that in Mars, because
Well,
you need hot and cold currents to meet up for it to form, right?
Well,
there's areas of the planet that are being heated by the sun, and there's areas that aren't. The problem is that the atmosphere is so thin that it's very hard to get that much, gas particulate movement. I mean, we have bad storms on Earth because our atmosphere is at one atmosphere. We call it one atmosphere because we're referencing ourselves, which doesn't make a whole bunch of sense in science, but there you have it. It's what we started with, so that's what we call it. But I can't remember exactly what the Martian atmosphere is, but it's much, much less than one atmosphere. And the whole problem the whole reason why you get lots of air currents and, strong winds and tornadoes and things, and why it's dangerous is because of the amount of gas that's moving at the time. So a wind is basically gas moving from high pressure to low pressure. There's a high pressure area and a low pressure area, and it's caused by differences in temperature. And the gas moves quickly enough, it creates a wind that you can feel. The gas is moving past you. You can feel it. And if it gets really fast, you get tornadoes and hurricanes and shit like that, which you really don't want. But it's a lot harder to produce that sort of effect on Mars because there's just not as many gas particles. It doesn't have the atmosphere because the core of the planet has cooled and it no longer has a magnetosphere and the other layers of the atmosphere that we have, which keeps the gas on the planet on the surface. So it's been stripped off by the solar wind. So that's why Mars doesn't have the atmosphere that Earth does. Because it's smaller, it cooled quicker, core cooled, and you no longer have the effects of the core creating an environment where the solar winds are deflected and don't end up stripping the planet. Now, if our core cooled or stopped rotating and creating a magnetosphere, we'd be in all sorts of trouble. There's a movie called The Core, which covers this, and we probably should put it on our list. It skips over a few logical things about science, but basically the basic science of if the Earth's core stops spinning, we'd be in all sorts of deep shit is correct. The way they deal with it is a little bit woohoo, but the basic science of the problem is correct. So that's basically what happened to Mars. It no longer has a spinning core. It doesn't have a magnetosphere. The solar wind stripped off most of the atmosphere.
And I think it is almost barely outside the Goldilocks area too.
I think it's just inside.
Just inside. It's coming. Yeah.
It's just inside, but because it doesn't have a proper atmosphere, you don't have liquid water.
Robert, I have an idea for Ray. He's gonna have his rope next to him and a little board. So when he goes with just detailed explanations with scientific data, he just goes and like showing the board and think with charts. He adds more cool stuff to his character.
I need a whiteboard, do I?
Yeah, we're gonna get you. Robert and I saw the glasses that are perfect for you, Ray. When you do this, it shines. Ting!
And you need the wig. You cannot do it without the wig.
The wig. I don't know what happened to my white wig. Or maybe it's downstairs somewhere. I have to dig it out.
Yeah,
I've cosplayed exactly once, and I cosplayed Doc Emmett Brown from Back to the Future.
Not Thankful.
Nice.
I never cosplayed.
That's how I got the name.
I never cosplay, man.
You don't need to, man. You bring the chaos.
It was actually a friend of mine's Bucks party, and we were required to cosplay as a time traveler. So we had Doctor Who, we had Doc Emmett Brown, we had all sorts of folks there.
That's pretty cool.
It was fun.
Nice.
Okay, so I guess we delayed this long enough.
You want some plot?
I guess we're ready for some plot. I'm hungry.
Gio, if you could mute yourself so I'm not getting the echo while I do the plot, that'd be cool. Thank you. All righty then. Just a little bit of context. Released to cinemas on September the 11th, 2015. It's a 20th Century Fox movie. 141 minutes running time, although I do believe Robert watched the extended version, which was more like 3 hours. And now I have to hunt that down and find it.
Yes, I did.
The budget was 108 million. Box office was 630.6 million. So obviously it was well in the black. I would consider that reasonably well received. It's no, billion-dollar movie, but there's not that many of them that are in general, especially sci-fi movies. But that's pretty good showing. So the plot. In 2035, the crew of the Artemis 3 mission to Mars is exploring Arcadia Planitia on Martian solar day, Sol 18 of their 31 Sol expedition. So they call them sols, solar days. I'm not quite sure what the measurement is. It's probably not a measurement of Martian days because they are different from Earth days. You've got to remember that every planet has a different orbital time. A year is considered how long it takes you to go around the sun once. A day is considered how long it takes the planet to rotate once, so that you're in the same spot and the sun's in the same spot as it was that time yesterday. So I suspect that these solar days are probably Earth standard so that they can keep track.
I can give you context on that if you like.
Can you? Go for it.
So basically, just to put this into perspective, the days, let's start there. The days are very close to a day on Earth. So it's 24 hours, 37 minutes, and 22 seconds exactly. That is a whole Martian day, which they call Sol. But where it comes into the difference is the amount of sols or days in Mars for a year is actually 687 sols to a Martian year, which it's amazing to think that is almost 2 years equivalent of Earth, 1 year on Mars.
Well, the further out you are from the sun, the longer it takes you to orbit around it. Orbital velocities being fairly regular. So, if you look at Mercury, its year would probably only be a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Whereas if you look at something like my son's favorite dwarf planet, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Is it Mucky? I can't remember which one it is, but anyway, it's got an orbit time, so a year of 11,600 and something Earth years.
Wow.
Far out. It's basically got an orbit that is very similar to a comet, except it doesn't go in very deep into the solar system. It sort of goes around the outside of the solar system, and then it goes way into almost deep space, and then comes back in again. So it's got a very elliptical orbit, and the sun's in one corner. So
the hell with that. No,
orbits are funky things. They really are.
Before you move on to the plot, I want to say the last portion. Which, if you are already aware of, we are actually recording this podcast in Mars. So it actually takes between 5 to 20 minutes for our signal to reach Earth. So just another measure of perspective.
Yeah, and that's the reason I could actually join, because I am on Mars right now. So this is a one-time thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Unless you guys decide to stay on Mars for a while, which would be pretty cool.
Hey, we should have some Martian beers after the show.
There you go.
Mars Brew. Yeah. Hashtag Mars Brew. So there is also because there's an elliptical plane where every planet that's recognized as a planet orbits in the same plane around the sun. Pluto, when it was considered a planet, had an orbit that was different from the elliptical plane. But all the other planets, well, now all the planets, because all the ones that are recognized planets are all on that elliptical plane. There are times where the Earth will be on one side of the sun and Mars will be on the other, and communication will be impossible because you can't send radio transmissions through a gigantic nuclear furnace. It don't work.
Well, why not? I wanted to.
because we're not using linked particle Morse code yet.
Or quantum mechanics would be a problem, I think.
I think that's what they're going to need to talk to Mars with any regularity. We'll get that worked out. Anyway, so where was I on the plot? Yes. So they're on day 18, or Sol 18 of their 31 Sol expedition. A severe dust storm threatens to topple their Mars ascent vehicle. So basically, the vehicle is like a small tower on legs with engines underneath, and it's supposed to lift off. And basically, it's being hit by wind, which we discussed earlier. Probably wasn't going to be as bad as they made out in the movie, but they needed a reason for them to leave. And it would tip over if the wind got to a certain level, and they were measuring how far the wind was tipping the vehicle, and they basically had to get the hell out of Dodge because if the vehicle tips over, they don't go home. And that would be very bad. The mission is abandoned, but as the crew evacuates, astronaut Mark Watney is struck by debris. The telemetry from his suit's biomonitor is damaged, and Watney is erroneously presumed dead. With the MAV on the verge of toppling, the remaining crew takes off and for their orbiting vessel, the Hermes. Watney awakens after the storm, injured and with a low oxygen warning. He returns to the crew's surface habitat, or HAB, and treats his wound. As Watney recovers, he begins a video diary. Unable to communicate with Earth, his only chance of rescue is the next Mars mission in 4 years. The Ares 4 will land 3,200 kilometers or 2,000 miles away at the Schiaparelli crater. Watney's immediate concern is food. Being a botanist, he creates a garden inside the HAB using Martian soil fertilized with the crew's bio-waste, that is poop, and manufactures water from leftover rocket fuel. He then cultivates potatoes using whole potatoes reserved for a special Thanksgiving meal, which were vacuum packed. He also begins modifying the rover for the journey to the Ares 4 MAV site. On Earth, NASA satellite planner Mindy Park, reviewing satellite images, notices moved equipment and realizes that Watney must be alive. NASA's director Teddy Sanders releases the news to the public, but decides not to tell the Ares 3 crew so that they will remain focused on their mission, over flight director Mitch Henderson's strong objection. Watney takes the rover on a 1-month journey to retrieve the Pathfinder probe, which fell silent in 1997, and its associated Sojourner rover. Using Pathfinder's camera and monitor, he establishes visual contact with NASA. NASA transmits a software patch to link the mission rover with Pathfinder, enabling communication by text. Sanders finally allows Henderson to inform Watney's crewmates. Mars Mission Director Vincent Kapoor and Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, Director Bruce Moon prepares a space probe to deliver enough food for Watney to survive until Ares 4's arrival. Meanwhile, the HAB airlock blows out, exposing the HAB to a harsh Martian environment, killing the potato plants. This is his second lot of potato plants. He managed to get one harvest, which they don't mention there, which is very important. Otherwise, he would have run out of food. Sanders orders the routine safety inspections to be bypassed to save time. As a result, the Atlas V rocket explodes soon after liftoff. They said that the pressure of the liftoff vaporized some of the cargo and it moved.
And I want to take advantage of this moment to tell all of our listeners this is where you actually go and follow OSHA compliance rules.
I mean, it was going to take them 10 days to do all the checks. And the guy said, how often do these checks show up problems? He said, one in 20 launches. And he said, well, we've got to take the chance or else it won't get to him before he carks it from lack of food. So they took the chance and failed. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got the time, do the checks.
Yeah. If you got the time, if you don't do the checks, something goes wrong in your life, you won't have more time.
So the Chinese National Space Administration had developed a secret booster rocket, the Tiantian. The decision is made to use the rocket to resupply Watney in exchange for getting a Chinese astronaut on the next Ares mission. Astrophysicist Rich Purnell devises an alternative plan. Have the Tiantian rendezvous with and resupply the Hermes, which will then use Earth gravity to slingshot back to Mars 2 years earlier than Ares 4. Sanders rejects the idea, considering it too risky for the Hermes crew. Henderson surreptitiously sends Purnell's proposal to the crew. They unanimously vote to implement it without seeking NASA's approval, disabling NASA's remote controls and making the course change. So basically, they mutinied. Sanders is forced to support them publicly, but demands Henderson resign after the Ares 3 mission is complete. Watney begins a 90-sol journey to the Schiaparelli crater, where the MAV for the Ares 4 has been pre-positioned. He must use it to rendezvous with the Hermes, but it needs to be lightened considerably. He basically rips everything off the damn thing, including the front airlock.
What was the core that was used? And the
You want to send a man to orbit underneath a tarp?
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll work.
Right. Attached with carabiners.
Yeah. Okay, that would work. So, yeah. After takeoff, when the MAV runs out of fuel, its velocity relative to the Hermes is too fast for Watney to be picked up. So actually, it didn't get high enough and move fast enough to have a similar velocity to the Hermes. That's not written very clearly. But basically, because the tarp came off, it had enough wind resistance, which there's not much air in the Mars atmosphere, but there was enough to slow it down a little bit. There was enough drag that it didn't get enough speed and enough height to be in the right place for the rendezvous, which was a bit of a bummer. Commander Lewis quickly improvises using an explosive to breach the forward airlock, resulting in air escaping violently and slowing the Hermes down. But basically, she blew the nose off her spaceship to brake because they didn't have the fuel to do it. It's still not enough. Using a tethered manned maneuvering unit. See, the manned maneuvering unit, that was the thing I was looking for to talk about when we were doing something Roses. Remember the anime movie?
Yes.
I was looking for that and I couldn't find it.
Magnetic Rose. Yeah, that's
Magnetic Rose.
Yeah. They still have it. NASA still uses it.
But I was looking for it and I could not find it. But yeah, the manned maneuvering unit. That was the freaking thing I was looking at because they had those in that anime. Okay, so using a tethered manned maneuvering unit, Lewis is unable to reach Watney. Watney pierces his pressure suit using the escaping air to propel himself to Lewis, ending his 561 souls of being alone on Mars. After returning to Earth, Watney becomes a survival instructor for astronaut candidates. No shit. I mean, he's completely qualified. 5 years later, the Ares 5 is about to launch. Those involved in Watney's rescue are seen in their current lives. And the wiki page shows a topographical map of Mars showing where he went, which is pretty cool, I gotta say.
So I guess we're ready for the first question. And I think, I think I'm going to go with Nate for the first question. Well, let's look at this real quick. And remember, if you are listening to our pod on the podcatcher, we are displaying a map of Mars where they're showing the route that he took on the movie.
This is literally how the Weather Channel looks in Mars, guys.
Interesting. So this short trip down this side was when he went to get the Pathfinder probe, so he could contact Earth, contact NASA again. And this was the trip he had to make in the modified remote vehicle to get to Schiaparelli crater to get onto the launch vehicle that was positioned there for the next manned mission. So basically, they sent a whole bunch of supplies and an escape vehicle to the place where the next mission was going to land. So rather than having to have it all in one vehicle like they do with the moon landers, so the moon lander had the landing vehicle, and on the bottom of that, on the top of that was the escape vehicle to get back up to orbit. Rather than trying to do it all with one vehicle that splits in part, they did it with two vehicles. So they'd arrive in one vehicle and leave in another, which is pre-positioned.
Wow.
What is the scale of this map? And by the way, you too can watch this map if you subscribe to our YouTube channel and wait a month for our episode.
There's no miles, unfortunately, but here's 1,000.
How many washing machines? How many washing machines?
Oh, quite a few. Quite a few washing machines. Yes, I don't know that they have any washing machines on Mars. So it's very hard to work out.
With the same number of
that's
qubits.
an internal joke. That's an internal joke that we have because Ray found something that we're measuring like the distance between point A and B, and they use washing machines as a unit of measure. So now we always go like, how many washing machines in length? They literally say so many 100,000 washing machines in length, equal in length. I'm like, who the heck did this?
It was actually a news.
And Anchor News.
Yeah,
I think it was Douglas
Yeah,
Adams.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was
But yeah, the map
was
that we're
funny.
showing right now, it's very impressive and scary. I mean, I know this is a sci-fi movie, but still, this is a long trip in that way and that distance on a planet that where everything wants to kill you. It's scary. That's why I was asking for the
It's more scary that everything doesn't want to kill you. It just will kill you.
Yes.
But it doesn't really it doesn't even want to kill you. Imagine if it wanted to kill you now.
yeah.
And
So
there
how many
aren't
wa-
even any other life forms there. It's just the environment that wants to kill you,
Yep.
wants to get in.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the meme, sinkhole measurement.
So, well, jeez. That's
Awesome.
got to be a joke.
Oh my
You'd
God.
hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to
I'm
Mars.
going to engage in bad faith reasoning and think it's a joke, but back to Mars, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking about the scale to kind of have a sense of the distance for our listeners on the pod. But it is a long trip on a planet that where everything everything can kill you immediately.
Yeah.
So this measurement of 1,000 kilometers down here is 621 miles.
Wow.
There you go.
So that's 620.
And Mars is considerably smaller than us still.
Yeah, it is.
And to put another measure of perspective there, the hottest temperature in Mars is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that translate to the other measure.
Fahrenheit 70.
I would leave that to I don't know if Ray can do.
Yeah, probably.
That's
Better
what he
than me.
uses.
Yeah, I was just checking the diameter of Mars. So the diameter of Mars is 6,779 kilometers.
Yeah.
And for comparison, the diameter of Earth is 12,742 kilometers.
Yeah.
So basically double that.
And Chaos, can you guess what is the temperature at night?
At night?
Yes.
I would say 125 Fahrenheit, 140. What's the ratio? 165 maybe?
195 Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that the hottest it gets is minus 65.
No, 70.
Minus 70.
No, 70.
The hottest that it gets.
The hottest is 70.
Really?
70. Just straight up 70.
Okay.
And 195 is minus 195 at night. So yeah. You'll be a fan of the show. You'll be a midsicle.
So yeah, 70 degrees Fahrenheit is 21.11111 degrees Celsius. So it's quite comfortable if there was an atmosphere, but there isn't.
Yes.
Bit ugly. But yeah, I mean, that temperature is okay. Quite comfortable. Like it's currently 1 degree colder than that here in Australia, where I am. So
the problem is
problem is nothing to breathe and nothing to eat, nothing to drink. I say there's nothing to drink, but there's a lot of water trapped in the polar regions under the ground. Apparently,
don't drink your own pee. It's salty. It'll dehydrate you.
Well, you need to use a water recapture system, which he has one of. So
nice.
It's basically a big still suit.
And did they get him from some kind of desert from Dune by any chance?
I couldn't even make out what you said then, man.
You said that it has like a spacesuit.
The still suits from
like
Dune.
Yeah.
like one of the Fremen suits.
It looks, and I'm saying like, does the suit look like the ones in Dune by any chance?
Well,
I
his spacesuit looks, very, very much like what you'd expect from NASA.
regular space is like bulky.
No, it's the space one is quite bulky.
Yes.
But the
Yeah.
Mars surface one isn't too bad. And the backpack was quite small, which I thought was.
I did like it. I did like the aesthetics of it because it makes it more, I would say, realistic for a more often use. Because I believe that the regular spacesuits that are for like spacewalking and things like that are not meant to be worn and used on a constant basis, like walking around places.
Yeah.
Since you're floating, you don't put so much stress on it.
Mhm.
But this kind of spacesuit remind me. The first time that I saw something like that was in Cowboy Bebop, the one that Spikes uses.
I
You remember, Robert?
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't look so bulky up, so bulked up. So it gives you better mobility and everything when it comes to you and different types of terrain. I don't imagine what would it be in the regular spacesuit to climb up a cliff or something compared to that one. Probably better.
Yeah. So let me ask the first question, and I'm going to explain for all of you out there who are listening for the first time. But the first question that we normally ask is, how old were you, and what was your first impression of this IP? And the reason why I want to start with Nate is he has a very interesting perspective because he has read the book and I haven't. Yes, you heard it here first. I bought
Yeah,
the
don't
book.
put too much stock into that. It was a very long time ago I read the book and I didn't reread it. So I'm feeling irresponsible right now.
Ah.
yeah, but you've watched the 3-hour version, Robert. None of us have. So
Well, I still want to, read the book. I have it. I bought it. It's just like, but I still haven't gotten around to it. But
well, you need to take it out from under the leg of that table that's rocking.
No.
Then you can read it.
so basically,
Yeah.
what it is you tell us how old you were, and what was your first impression when you first watched it, or when you first read it. Gio, when was the first time you watched it, though? By the way.
I think I watched it. I'm not sure if it was with you because I've watched this movie twice with you,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. One was you and me, and the other time was you, me, and my brother Ricardo.
Okay. And Ray, when was the first time you watched this?
I was today years old.
Oh, okay. So then you and Nate are
I-
around.
Really?
I have had the 3D Blu-ray sitting on my shelf for 2 years, and when I found out we had it on the list, I'm saving that. I'm going to be the today years old guy for a change.
So
Yeah,
since you watched it, go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, I think I was about almost 10 years ago I read the book. No, it must have been less than that because I remember the movie came out and I said, okay, I'm going to read the book first and then see the movie. And I read the book and thought, how could they possibly make this into a movie? Because a lot of the book consists of like internal narrative, internal dialogue with Watley himself. And that wouldn't by itself make for a good movie, but they adapted it fairly well from what I can remember. And obviously there's more detail in the book. But yeah, the plot was largely consistent.
Awesome.
And I was let's see, I watched the movie for the first time on Friday.
That.
Yeah.
So
Newborn.
Yep.
yeah. So I guess that leaves Ray. You watched it,
Well, I watched it after midnight here on Monday morning, and it's now 10:39 a.m. So today he's old officially.
Yeah.
Now I have a question for Nate, since he's the only one that has read the book. How did, and I know that you read the book a while ago,
Mhm.
but we all have had this experience when we read a book and we watch a movie. Did it complete and brought more to the experience of the book, or the movie didn't make justice to the book?
I think there's sort of two different projects there. The movie is a lot more entertaining. The book is a little bit more technical. And I think if we're
Okay.
to like regard something as like an advertisement or for the legitimacy or possibility of this kind of project. The movie might do a
Mhm.
better job, but my understanding is that a lot of the science in the book is fairly on point, and there's a lot more of it in the book than in the movie. But yeah,
So,
no,
they,
I,
so
I
they,
didn't.
they,
I
they actually scienced the shit out of it more in the book.
right, yeah. Yeah, and there's
Nice.
more cutesy drama stuff in the movie, but it made for a good movie. I'll give them that as well.
So putting two writers into comparison to say how strong one with the other, you could say that the movie is Agatha Christie and the book is actually Tom Clancy shit, like
Oh,
hard on.
yeah, I'll go with that comparison, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. That's a very strange. It's a strange analogy, and I gotta
Or Sidney
wrap my mind
Sheldon
around it
and
a little
then
bit.
Tom
Yeah,
Clancy.
Welcome
Yeah.
to the chaos. Now
Well,
you
it's a
understand.
chaotic analogy. Yeah, so it's gonna take me a little while. Maybe have to, utilize mental
I'm
non-Euclidean
listening to writers
space
with
to do
different
it.
sound.
Right.
Only.
Brain sprains take a little while to heal, but you'll be okay in a few days.
Yeah.
Oh no! See, now I'm gonna be obsessed with making sense of the analogy for the rest of the show.
Exactly.
Christie's
That's
the
a
movie
brain
and Tom
sprain.
Clancy is the book.
Oh,
So if I
wow,
like
nice.
space out, that's why.
Hey, don't get him talking about jellyfish stings. That's just somewhere you don't want to go.
Okay. Well, let's go with that analogy for now. I'm not going to contest it because I don't understand it.
Okay, Ray, you
Just not a long and keep going.
Okay.
Hey, I can explain it. I compare it in writing styles. Agatha Christie is more like fantastic and ominous and more fantasy.
Mhm.
So Classic goes more military tactical in his writings.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So-
I can see where it's coming from.
So Ray, before we interrupted you with just a chaos in your face,
I'm used to it, man. I just run with it.
you can
Running with scissors. Chaos is the scissors.
I'm going to interrupt you with time.
oh god, and here's Chaos Batman. So you were saying, Ray? Sorry.
I was. What was I saying?
See, that's
Was I
what
saying something?
Mission
I'm
accomplished.
sure it was technical.
yeah, we could move over.
Just keep going. I don't know.
So,
Listeners, if it was something you want to know more about, join our Discord and ask me. I'm happy to continue there. I just need a bit of prompting.
please do. Gio, you want to go next, or you want me to go next?
For my first thoughts on this
Yeah.
movie,
How old were you, and what was your very first impression?
I think I watched this movie like about a year after it came out. I learned that it was a book because you told me actually not too long ago, and I have not read it, but I did love the movie. To me, it was one of those movies, kind of like Interstellar, that they try to keep it 100 with the science on it. It had a very simple plot, but at the same time, like I've said before, that simplicity in the plot is what gives elegance and the beauty uh, at the end of the movie. Uh, I think that this is a movie that anybody that likes science fiction should watch for sure. And I really like this movie, man. I can tell you that I've watched this movie more than 12 times minimum. I've watched it more than 12 times.
Awesome.
For
For
the
me,
youngest guy here, that's pretty good going.
yeah. I think this is one of the other movies that I would say my only regret is that I never got to watch it on the theaters. Not sure I remember why. I think there was a different engagement, or can't remember exactly what it was. But I did get to watch it as soon as came out on release. And it was just, to me, it was just amazing. One of the first impressions that I took from my very first watch of this film is the marriage between science fiction and science. And if you listen to the show long enough, you know that's where you get me. when you have a science fiction and you marry with science, and it's just it blew my mind. Granted, there's a couple of things that I have we'll probably talk about it and eventually in the show, but overall, the movie was just amazing. And believe it or not, and Nate, you might not grasp this that I'm about to say, but the audience and Captain Chaos and Ray might know. I cry
Yep.
the first time on this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're an empath and you actually get into the story, of course you will. I mean, this guy is fighting at the face of despair,
Yeah.
against all odds. Like any other person, statistically would tell you, you're not making it out of there.
Yeah.
Why even try?
So it
You know,
it was and that's exactly it. It's in uh, because of that empathy that I had when watching this. I think it took it just a little bit on the personal side, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
And that is
you became emotionally invested.
exactly. And I love those kind of movies because they become part of, well, in essence, they become part of you. So I couldn't tell you how many times I watched this film. I actually bought the film, and I'll talk later. There you go. I got it on digital format, but um, I always looked at the commentary, the extras, which I have something interesting to talk about the extras in just a few minutes here. But yes, I've seen this movie way too many times, and this is part of the reason why we had it on the blacklist, because we were afraid of the kind of content that we would be able to provide in here. So okay.
Well, one thing more than any other I got overall from the movie is that it points to the proof of concept or conceptual possibility of actually doing something like this on Mars. And the fact that most of the science, from my understanding, is fairly accurate. And this kind of thing, can be done, at least conceptually, and we can see how it would happen. I can imagine that having a strong emotional impact on a lot of people who have been thinking about this for a long time, myself included.
Yeah. And this is partly the reason why I said earlier in the show that
so Nate's want to leave Earth too.
well, we all
Hang out on
eventually do.
Mars. Probably not in our lifetime, but
Yeah.
All you need to do is take this movie and then use AI to replace Matt Damon's face with Elon Musk's face, and then Elon will be happy.
oh yeah, he would be, wouldn't
Except he has to die. Sorry, he wanted to die on Mars.
he? Mhm.
Oh my god.
Awesome. So
I haven't actually given my first impressions yet. So
yeah, go ahead.
So watched this a few hours ago for the first time. It's funny. Some movies I go, yeah, that'll be a good movie, but I'm not up to watching it yet. Like, it's not something I feel desperately in need of watching. And I knew that it was either going to be great or shocking, depending on how good the science was. And I was looking. I don't know. Maybe in the back of my head, I was thinking, I'll just wait until I got a good reason to watch it. But
what did you think
having a 3D TV? Oh no, it was good. It was good. It hung together really well, which I was impressed about.
That's a lot to say from Ray, because Ray's hard to please as hell.
Oh, I'm not hard to please. I can just tell you when
you
it's a
are,
shit
Ray.
movie.
Nothing is ever good enough for you. And this one is good. This one was great then.
Well,
He's got completely the wrong impression of me.
He looks it up with a scientific eye. There's a big difference.
Hey, in other words, you have high standards, man. That's nothing bad with that.
Hey, look, since I started working with you guys, my critical eye got way more critical when I watch movies. Like, I'd watch a movie and go, yeah, that's bullshit, but keep going. Now I go, that's bullshit. I've got to talk about this tomorrow. So, it's...
Got a rant about it.
Yeah, that's right. So now I got a reason to be critical. I got to be more.
Watch out, Twitter! Here I come.
Yeah.
No, look, I post on Twitter once, twice a week, and it's got to do with Alita. So I'm not
Oh, okay.
I'm not an online ranty person. But I mean, when you can have a really good conversation with people who get your points, and these guys do, and I suspect our listeners who, if they're regular listeners, they obviously have the same sort of mindset in that they want to enjoy their sci-fi and they want it to hold together logically. Internal consistency is one of my bugbears. I hate shows that lack internal consistency, and I could tell that they got NASA on board for the details of this movie. It was blindingly obvious that they'd done their homework, and Ridley Scott was there going, nope, this is going to make sense, or I'm not filming it. So good on you, Ridley Scott. You produced a great movie. It made a whole lot of sense, and it basically sci-fied the Castaway movie.
Oh yeah, with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that one, or to go back a little bit further, I'm just trying to remember it. Not Treasure Island. Crap, what was it? The guy who had Man Friday.
You're not talking about Robinson Crusoe.
Yeah, Robinson Crusoe. It felt very Robinson Crusoe to me. Although, he didn't have a Man Friday. He had a little rover that ran in circles around the middle of the room. That was the only company he had. It felt quite Robinson Crusoe to me. The shipwrecked on a desert island. And I would think that actually Castaway was a closer earthly comparison to this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
It could have been, yeah.
But I mean, anything sounds cooler if you put space in front of it. So, Space Castaway. Cooler. Sorry. Yeah. It's just cooler. So
Space butts.
And they called it the Martian. He's not a Martian. He's an Earthling castaway on Mars, but he's the only person living there. So he colonized the place apparently, according to the definition. So you can call him a Martian if you really want.
Oh, that's right. He grew potatoes. That means he's colonized it. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Right. Yeah. So my first impression, and I got to say that I'm a little bit on the spoilt side. I love 3D. I have Alita Battle Angel in 3D, and I actually bought a 3D TV. I had to go back to get a 2016 model while I still had 3D, but it's a 4K 3D TV. But 3D doesn't work in 4K; it only works in 1080p. So when I'm watching 3D, I'm watching 1080p on a 4K screen, but I can still watch 4K on this TV. So it's got the best of both worlds. As you can see here, I bought the 3D version of this movie.
Nice.
And it was quite impressive. I mean, I haven't actually seen The Way of Water. I bought the 3D Blu-ray, and it's due to be here in about 3 weeks. But I'm going to watch it on 3D on my 3D screen here. But Alita Battle Angel is the best 3D movie that I've ever seen, and this is a close second. I got to say that they did a whole lot of good work with the 3D in this movie. The dust storm was like, shit, it's coming for me. It's like shit everywhere. It was very impressive. And there was a couple of times when they had a shot of the rover wheel going past and it was throwing up red Martian soil, and that came flying at you as well. And when he was launching in the escape vehicle and all the little nuts and bolts were floating around, oh yeah, that was cool. And the space shots were cool in 3D as well. So if you can see this movie in 3D, and I got to say that I'm especially lucky because I have a 3D TV and a 3D Blu-ray player, specifically so I could watch Alita Battle Angel in 3D. But I've got other 3D movies, and this is one of them. And it was a special treat to see it in 3D. I thought a lot of people can't watch 3D because it screws with their eyes.
We can watch it 3D on our Oculus, right?
I'm not sure. I know you can watch 3D movies, but
yeah, we'll check later.
But I do have to ask, Ray. The you ordered it's gonna be so you said it's gonna take 3 weeks. You said to receive that movie you were talking about.
Yeah, it's coming from the US, I think. So, and I didn't want to pay 1.5 times the value of the disc to get it sent to me express. So I just got to wait for it.
The reason why I was asking is like, is that what happens when you order from the past, or is it better to order for the future?
Well, you see, it's got to catch up, so it's much like the docking maneuver that they were trying to pull, and the speeds weren't quite right. But the disc has to catch up with me because I'm moving faster than it is in the future. So it takes a few weeks to do that. It's got to get an orbital slingshot to get the velocity.
Sorry, I had to go there.
I'll techno babble your ass off if you keep doing this to me, man. No worries.
So that was your.
You'd know how good I write techno babble if you read those chapters of my book, you bastard.
Oh. Well, I did like that one chapter that I read, full of technobabble. That was really, really cool.
Yeah,
I like that one. I still haven't read number 6, but I am. So I gotta talk about the extras, and I don't know if you guys had any chance of watching the extras.
I haven't looked at them.
But I just have to talk about it because the extras on the digital version that I got, they made you feel like you were inside the universe. So, for example, there is an extra called "Leave Your Mark," and I think I wrote this. I think I wrote the wrong thing, but there's. Let me not mention names because I think I misplaced in my notes. But there is a documentary, a mini documentary within the extras, where it's like if you're watching Star Talk from Neil deGrasse Tyson, that I found really, really interesting because when you watch, and I mean, he get a chance to plug his podcast. That is amazing. So basically, what it is this is the podcast in this universe, in this time zone, and he's talking about Mars, and he's talking about the Project Ares, and in his very iconic style. If you ever watch the podcast Star Talk, it was a lot more like Cosmos meets Star Talk kind of thing. It was very short. And of course, the stuff that he talks is about the movie. So when you watch it, you start thinking, hold on a second, is this for real? Because it's very, very realistic. But it puts you on that world. It puts you on this universe where you feel like, oh my God, this is how it would be if you would watch Star Talk on this universe. And it was very, very, very cool. I really, really enjoyed it. There is a commercial in there for Under Armour. So you watch
in the movie or as an extra?
The extras. There's different extras. Okay. So I'm about the multiple different extras when you purchase the movie. So there's one of them that is a commercial for Under Armour. So they have Mark, training, lifting weights, and all that stuff. And at the end, they showed him on his spacesuit, and he says, NASA Ares program, and then it flips to like a normal commercial would be. It flips to like Under Armour official wear of the Ares program. So it makes you feel like you're actually watching a commercial on TV in this universe. Yeah. They had a message, like I think it was kind of like a farewell video of all the astronauts before the launch, where they were telling everybody, see you later. There was one, I specifically remember the name of this extra. It's called "Bring Him Home," that actually slightly brought me to tears, only because I was present when the Challenger tragedy happened. I was actually watching. Was watching on TV. This one over here bring him home. It's kind of like if you're watching the news on this universe, and you see the entire planet coming together to bring Mark home. And you'll see all the clips in, like, in Japan, in China,
Mhm.
and US.
London.
But let me tell you guys, have you noticed that historically, that's when we humans, as a single race, come united, is when we root for one same goal or the difficulty. Like here, there's not a bad guy. The situation is the bad guy, but everybody roots for the Martian because he represents humans. So it's like we come harmoniously all together. You know, to me, that's something rewarding to see because we are always at war, fighting each other
Yeah.
since the long time.
It was the
But
feel
when you
good
see humans
part.
together,
Yes. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's one of those very
Yep.
rare things that everybody can agree upon, and they don't come
Mhm.
along very often.
yep.
Oh, they come,
But like I like to call it, that's some kumbaya stuff.
they come along in all those space movies where it
Where's the
comes along
chaos
in all those
guitar?
space movies. It comes along in all those space movies where the Earth's going to be destroyed because that affects everybody. But
Yeah.
this was more of a putting yourself in that person's place and saying, well, if it was me, I'd really want them to come back and get me.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes. Now, the final extra that I want to mention was really, really interesting to me because I actually read World War Z, the book. I don't know if you guys ever read
Mhm.
that book.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
of it.
I like the movie, and I play the game.
The reason why I like that book, and I know you guys know, I would like zombies if I didn't zombie it out. I think I consume way too many IPs to be at the point right now where I'm like, another zombie stuff. So that's the only reason why I don't watch any zombie stuff lately. But the only reason why I really love that book is that when you read it, you're placed in a perspective of someone that might not be firsthand experience of the events that happen. So you're watching kind of like a documentary of firsthand accounts from all people that were there when this one thing happened. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love that book so much is I never really read a book where the events happen years in the past and you're like receiving kind of like watching a documentary from like World War II, right? So there is a clip, there's an extra in this film where obviously it's not as old as like in World War, in World War Z. People were already old and they were recounting their stories of what happened in that war. But in this extra on the film, they were recounting the events starting at when they announced Marcus dead, all the way out through the entire thing. It's kind of like a documentary where they have the actual actors pretending to be the people in, and they're discussing what happened. And I think at one point one of them lifted a finger because they didn't agree on what the other guy.
Like a docudrama, right?
No, it's a documentary. It's a true documentary, of course, fake because it's within this universe.
No, that's what I would call it. Isn't that called a docudrama because they also do the lines or dialogues of the people?
No, this was I don't know if it was. I'm sure it wasn't improvised. I mean, it's probably scripted, but it gave you the feel as if you have someone away from the camera asking
Uh huh.
questions. And this type of documentary, I've seen it a lot, where when you watch it, the question is implied, but it's never truly asked, and all you see is the people responding, and they cut it in a way that it flows from one question. I'm sure that they play the responses to each other
Yeah.
because the other person that goes next, that is their turn to talk, has a chance to respond to the previous person. So
hmm
I really kind of like that style of documentary. I don't see it often, but it actually really works for this mock documentary for this,
Nice.
and it makes you feel like maybe 10 years have passed since this event. Maybe not that long. Maybe like 5 years have passed since the event. And you're watching
Okay.
this documentary to see what really happened.
Hmm.
So it's really, really interesting. If you guys get a chance of looking at the extras on this film, I recommend it because it places you in this universe, which is
Only if it has David Attenborough as a narrator.
oh, nice.
And here we have a Martian in his native habitat.
I think Werner Herzog would be pretty good with that too.
Oh yeah.
I am for sure an extraterrestrial being, Ray.
Oh, dude.
Nice.
But yeah, man, this actually until I watched this movie, I did not learn that it would take you so long to make it back to Mars, and that I knew only that you could go every 2 years is what I thought. I would think. But when I saw the movie confirmed the actual numbers.
Well, it changes. And that's the thing. That's what makes it so complex. I think, didn't they say in the movie it was like 6 months?
I think so. That's what that's what they said in the movie.
But the thing is that is at that particular time of the year, because the Earth and the planet Mars are in the perfect alignment for it to take 6 months. But as it moves along, it actually would take a lot longer, depending on the position within the solar system.
Yep, that's correct.
So yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be a point in the sky where it might take 2 years to travel, which it might not be very fuel efficient, but that's
well. Let's see what we do with our fuel consumption issues from here to there, right? God knows if they have a better solution. I hope.
I think I have a question that I'm going to post here, right? Because I
Okay.
was thinking about this, and I kind of mentioned this in the Alita live stream as well. I honestly feel that if we can work out as humans, I mean, I have faith, right? Because we have come a long way scientifically from our inception, from our beginnings. And usually a problem, if you give it enough time and enough smart people behind the research, behind the development of the new technologies, the solutions will come. And that's actually the basis of science and how we are so far ahead today and how we're going to reach even farther into the future. You know, we can ask Ray here. He lives in the future. So
Not that far in the future, though.
So I strongly feel that if we can understand gravity is a force all over the galaxy, all over the universe. And I think if we can understand, if we can overcome might not be the perfect word, but if we can work a solution where we can control gravity, that would be life-changing for humanity, because it would actually help us in our travel through the space, our travel through the galaxies. That
You know it's gonna be good and it's gonna be dangerous too, right?
yeah, but and I'm going to post this question here for everybody because I want to hear each of your opinions on this. I think that's where you know, there's an IP that handles that perfectly. And I use that as an example is Star Trek, for example. Within this universe, they figure out how to use it in a way that they can create plates. So you could have a section of a ship that has gravity and another one, if you want to, not have gravity, or you can control it like you control lights right now. You can dim it. So you have, you know, maybe 0.5 gravity, or you can increase it where you can have maybe 1.5 gravity, because we learned how to use it We learn how to control, well, not necessarily control, but we know how to use gravity, right, into our advantage. Now, why I'm posing the question is, for perspective on my question, let's use the real launch into space right now. So I don't remember the exact percentage, but I want to say close to 90% of the weight that is used on a launch of any vehicle into space is all fuel.
That'd be about right.
It's insane that that amount of fuel is necessary, and it makes sense mathematically. If you do the calculations, that's exactly what it is. But that is where the issue starts, because it takes so much power, it takes so much, and you can't take as much as you want. And that is the issue that we have when you go into companies for payload. When you need to deliver something into space, they got to calculate, okay, this has this much weight multiplied by this much fuel. And it's always going to be a ridiculous amount of fuel. So question to you, and you can go in any order you like, is what is your thought about humanity not necessarily just ever achieving some sort of understanding of gravity to the point that it could help us in that way? But number two, which this is a lot more science fiction than science fact, but the other part is how our understanding or manipulating or managing of gravity could help space travel. It doesn't have to be a scientific, comment, but it's your own opinion. So,
well, I think it already has in some ways. The slingshot method that they used to harness the gravity of, I can't remember what body it was, but they used it in the movie. I think that's actually being used in some capacity right now. But Ray, I'm guessing you know a lot more about this than I do, and it can explain it better.
I've seen documentaries about this actually, Nate. I've seen documentaries. They are testing it. Of course, they cannot send a person because you'll squash them when it takes the momentum. But they're able to throw things already into the stratosphere right now with a slingshot. It is impressive to watch it, actually.
Very.
Now they're working on a payload that can go without coming down because it's too heavy, and not matter the force, you'll bring it back. So they're working on aerodynamics and weight and stuff like that, but it's amazing to see. It looks like a giant CHL.
I've seen the videos. It's really, really impressive.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
cool.
It's cool, right?
So I was more thinking along the lines of, how we learn how to control electricity. And obviously, again, I'm going to put it more into the science.
Put a kite, put a line, and then put a key on the other side.
There you go. That's exactly how you do it. You guys can do it. Go to our Discord and let us know how that goes.
Don't be recommending people to go and get themselves electrocuted with 1.21 gigawatts. Okay,
they might turn them back to the future. They might.
They might. Yeah. If they're running at 88 miles per hour when they do it, yeah.
You want to hear something funny? And in Dominican Republic, the water is not constant on the faucet. It comes twice a week. We use the water pump system, but we had to plug it manually into a 220 cable from the post. So the job is done by two people. The first person has the water pump that is going to plug it. The second one has a club and a machete. If the first one gets stuck in electricity, he'll hit you with a club, and then he'll open you with a machete somewhere in your body so the electricity escapes. If not,
what now?
Yeah,
what?
Just like that. And I was like, it's not right. And he told me, yep, if I don't open you up somewhere, the electricity won't escape your body, and then it could kill you. But I could gas you up. You'll save you. And like, really? Wow, bro. It is true. I didn't believe it, but it's true.
Should we put that?
Hey, it's science, bro. Primitive science.
Nice hashtag.
That is not how it works.
And if you're not in YouTube right now, oh god, god.
I had to come up with this hashtag just because of the way chaos goes on in this show. He talks some utter crap. Not that this is his crap. This is somebody else's crap he's telling us about. But
Oh god, I need to breathe.
Yeah, I never did the pump work. I did once the work of the club and the machete, but I didn't have to use it.
To respond to that question that was actually answered instead of going off the rails for miles on end into the forest. I think the gravity manipulation, if we can swing it, will be a huge breakthrough for humanity in technological terms. Not just for, if we can create a form of gravity plating or whatever to give us, normal one Earth gravity in our spaceships so that we don't have to have rotating sections and rely on those. But
drive.
But also gravity drive. Gravity is a weak force, but if you can create enough of it, you can get a black hole, which is a massive impact upon the physical space around it. And if you can do that, like Star Trek's been suggesting it for a long time, that Romulans are using microsingularities as power sources for their starships. And I haven't looked it up, I must admit, but I'm sure there's research going on right now where they're trying to work out if anything like that is possible. Microsingularities are basically really, 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 really small black holes, which is what, when they turned on the CERN atom smasher, the collider over in CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, there were people who were very concerned that they might create microsingularities and one of them could eat the Earth. But generally, microsingularities don't last very long because they're not big enough and heavy enough, basically, to maintain themselves. Yeah, they can't maintain themselves and they wink out of existence. They just basically evaporate. But if it got big enough, and I don't know exactly how big it needs to be, again, not a physicist, but if it did get big enough, then we could be in all sorts of trouble. But that apparently didn't happen because we're still here. But I mean,
that is because they're using antimatter already.
Oh, okay, right, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad you knew. I'm glad you knew about that, Gia. But yeah, the control of gravity would be a huge step forward for humanity, basically because it is a weak force, but if you get enough of it together, it can move stars. So if we could do that, we could use it as a type of engine, and it's been postulated that gravity drive might be a thing one day.
Not only that, it could be a great tool. It has a lot of practical uses if we learn to harness its power.
Yeah, you can build pyramids with it.
Yeah, I think the amount of energy that would be saved by being able to manipulate gravity may in some senses, be greater than the amount gained. So it's just save energy by not having to haul things around and using extra resources to do that. And it's not the power that it harnesses, but the power that it saves.
I mean, you may not be able to use it as a drive system, but if you could basically negate the weight, then you need bugger all fuel to get something into orbit because you weren't pushing so much weight, which I think is what you're alluding to.
Yep, precisely.
I was just thinking about it because there's always a concept of anti-gravity, which again, we're talking about, antimatter and dark energy and all that stuff that hasn't been, at least, I don't know that has been necessarily proven when it comes to the anti-gravity, but
or comprehended in total.
It makes sense that it would be there because every force in nature, every force in the universe has a counteracting force. Proving pointing to prove a point, black holes and the existence, the theoretical existence of white holes, right? So that's the reason where I was going, what my mind was going, is the fact that, if there's a gravity, there's also an anti-gravity based on that concept. And if and that's the problem when you go into the anti anything, is where the problem is. And we had conversations like this in the past when we were discussing the warp drive from Alcubierre, where they went, we had gone, even though in a theoretical sense, we have increased our knowledge tremendously, because when Alcubierre announced this, it was going to take the the energy of the universe, which is, in theory is possible, but also
Infinite.
impossible, because it's a whole universe. And then we have gone to the point, the last I read, right, because
Jupiter.
I haven't read lately, but the last I read, it went down from the energy of the entire universe to using the energy of Jupiter, which still impossible because it's a gas giant. But
it's a giant leap forward on
in
scale.
in a scale. So we not no longer
I mean, Jupiter is big, but not that much.
in comparison to the universe,
Yeah.
So where I was going with this story is the fact that one of the things necessary to make warp travel a thing is the use of antimatter in combination with matter to create the bubble. And that's where everything kind of stops. I think that CERN is also dealing with the research. Am I mistaken in that? I think I read that they're also into the antimatter research, and that's another thing that people were concerned about, because you can't really have matter and antimatter or bad things.
It's very hard to produce, and it's also very hard to store.
Yes.
I mean, they use magnetic fields to store it.
Nonetheless, here we are putting big centers trying to recreate it. once we have it, it's like, okay, what do we do with it? What do we do with it?
Yeah.
The danger of something is no reason not to research it.
Yes. So that's what I was
That's
saying
too much.
about the
That sounded like crazy scientists.
Hey, there you go.
Hello, mad scientist.
Exactly. So that's the reason why I was mentioning that is because in my mind, gravity and anti-gravity, I mean, it could be so powerful, even from leaving Earth. So you could have I mean, let's figure that you created this plate, right? You could have plates outside the ship that would where you would control or bring it down or bring it plus or minus on the gravity, and you go to the minus side, it would lift from the Earth, and that's where those typical old-timey alien spaceships from, that would make sense as to how they would hover over Earth. So that's where my mind went when I was thinking about just the research between gravity and anti-gravity. So yeah, I'm a big overthinker.
You don't say.
That's how things get done a lot of the time, though, is by overthinking and doing detailed thought.
Yeah. You know what, and Ray, I don't know if you want to correct me in this one, but I think that's part of a scientific process. When you think, you need that to actually do the experiments and to write your notes and come up with conclusions. And
well, there's two ways to discover things. You're doing something and you go, oh shit, and then you go, eureka, I've discovered something completely different, but it's cool. And that's one way to discover things. And the other way is a lot slower and more methodical, and that is to have an idea, work out a way to test it, get repeatable results. That's a really important step.
yes.
and then publish it, have it peer reviewed, and then eventually, if it can't be disproven, it will be accepted. So we always have to remember that nothing can be proven; it can only be disproven. But if something remains undisproven, I know that's a really stupid word, but it's accurate. If something remains undisproven for long enough, it becomes accepted until it gets disproven. A perfect example is when my father went to school, the atom was the smallest particle of matter that was known to man. And then it was disproven when the nuclear bomb came along and split the atom. Science at any point in time is basically the sum of knowledge that we have at this time. It is not truth. It is how we understand the universe now. But in the future now, we will understand it differently. So science is always changing. And that's why you say, well, as far as we know, preface everything with as far as we know. And then, as soon as we know something new, that's as far as we know. Now it's this. And that's just understanding. Nothing stands still. Nothing remains the same. We learn new things every day and we improve our knowledge. That's the beautiful thing about science. It doesn't get boring because it doesn't stay the same.
It's true. It's
Just
true.
progressively.
Yeah, there's nothing more rewarding that actually being able to learn about something you're passionate about.
Well, actually, there is, and that is to increase the knowledge of humanity by doing the research and discovering something.
Yeah.
True. One of the cool things I like about that is you can pile it on top of each other. So there could be one research that has been done that maybe at that particular point has been, no one has been able to disprove it on a particular field. They might help the research of a complete different field.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, nothing in and of itself is, no scientific knowledge is an island. It's all interwoven and interlinked. And yeah, you can get completely, vastly separate fields interacting with each other and improving knowledge in both fields, or one field making a leap forward thanks to the knowledge in another field. And that's why scientists are always getting together and talking about stuff and collaborating. Collaboration in science is hugely important, especially in disparate fields.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna ask another question. This is bringing it back to the film that we watched. And I don't know if I want to start with, Nate and Ray here, who were today years old when they did this. And then we move on to like me and Gio, because the question is, something that you remember that called your attention about the film that really, it just made an impression in you. And that question will vary for me and Gio, because it would become now a collection from all the times that we watched this film, which has been a lot. What has been that one thing that you can recall that was impressive to you? That it's just an impression on the whole story. If you read the book, you could include the combination also between the film and the book as the story as a whole, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever want to go first is fine.
Yeah, I will. Sorry. I'm going to stick with the movie because there was one scene in the movie that had a huge impact. And it's not one of the really sciencey scenes, but it's a scene that had more to do with just wholesome human relations. And that's when Watney is put in contact with his old crew who are on the Hermes. And I think it's Martinez who's sending him like text messages, the equivalent of. And Martinez says to him,
bagging the shit out of him.
Yeah, bagging him. And says, "Hey, Watney, we're really sorry we left you on Mars, but we really just don't like you." And then he goes on, "Yeah, we just divided up all your tasks between us. It's just botany. It's not even real science." And there's enough of an empathetic understanding amongst the crew and Watney and all of them, such that it's just a really awesome moment. And if I hadn't liked the rest of the film, that scene alone would have been worth watching the film for. I thought it was that good, well written, well acted. I was really touched by it.
Well, these folks had spent a lot of time together, trapped in a very small amount of space. That spaceship didn't have a lot of space in it, and then when they were working down on Mars until the storm hit, it was again cramped conditions. They would know each other very, very well. So I don't think that Watney would have been put off by what was said. He would have known how it was meant.
Oh,
and the fact that they all turned around, and the fact that they turned around and went, "We're coming back for you, buddy." I mean, it was pretty obvious how they thought about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just thought that was a wonderful scene.
It really was.
Yeah.
My response to that question is more sort of an overview rather than a specific scene, and that is Watney as a character, his perseverance, and it is encapsulated in his opening statements to the prospective astronaut students at the end of the movie when he starts his new job, day one of his new job, where he says, space isn't kind. You're going to have problems. And when things go wrong and you're that far away from Earth, you've got to find a way to solve them yourself. You can either give up and die, or you can go, okay, I'm going to keep at this and I'm going to solve one problem after another until I get the hell out of here. And that's what you have to do. And it was his perseverance. And I don't think it's just a message for astronauts. I don't think it's a message for scientists. I think it's a message for humanity.
Yes.
That you only lose when you give up. Yep. And a lot of people don't have the mental fortitude to keep going.
Ray robbed my favorite scene.
Sorry. but basically perseverance is a human characteristic that is so valuable. And it's not the perseverance to keep punching something, like smacking your head against a brick wall. It's the perseverance to keep challenging yourself to solve the problems.
It's the virtue of not knowing when to give up.
Well, it's not a case of not knowing to give up, but it's a case of solving your problems logically and thinking about it and dealing with shit.
Yeah.
Rather than just giving up. So a lot of people just give up.
And thinking outside the box, because most people don't either. And it's a subconscious thing, It takes a lot of extra effort and creativity, really.
But I mean, in everyday life, it can be the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
If something bad, if you're in a car accident and you give up, then that could be the end of you or the end of someone you love. But if you stay calm and you think about it and you do sensible things, if you've done a first aid course and you know how to do basic first aid, I think every single person on Earth should know basic first aid.
Agreed.
And I recently renewed my basic first aid certificate, so I'm good. But yeah, you should know basic first aid, especially in a country like Australia, where we have 22 of the top 25 most poisonous snakes in the world. So you got to know how to do a compress and bandage of a limb, which I was.
You guys are so lucky.
He's got killer ants on his backyard. Killer ants.
No, that's the front yard. I don't go down the backyard. It's too scary.
Oh my god!
And based on the images that I seen that you posted from that meme,
he looks like he have Fengon's forest on there from the Lord of the Rings.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, I'll just segue into that for a second. Sean Bean is in this movie.
Yeah.
And the scene
Council
where
of
they
Elrond.
mentioned. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know how Sean Bean's well known for dying in
Yeah.
Die in this one.
He doesn't die, but he has to resign. So basically, he dies.
He's a corporate death. He's a corporate death.
Exactly. So he's keeping it accurate to his his characters.
Thank you.
That's one of the more fantastic Easter eggs in any movie I've seen.
It sure is.
That was wonderful.
I kept looking at him going, I know that guy. And then they start talking about Council. And I go, hang on, Sean Bean. Hang on. Boromir. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
as soon
on
as
board
as
now.
soon as I saw them and they said the Council of Elrond, I'm like, oh my god, you guys actually did that. You're awesome.
Yep, they went there. They did go there.
They went there.
Yeah, I didn't catch the analogy of death and resignation though. I'm like, oh, Sean Bean's character survived, but you're right.
So,
There's the analogous corporate
he-
death of resignation.
Sacrificial lamb.
Mhm.
Yep.
They didn't
He
catch that.
committed Harry Carey. Yep. There you go. You learned something from this podcast. Like how
What
valuable
you gonna
it
do
was.
with that
You learned something.
information and how useful it's gonna be? We don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
There was another podcast. I can't remember which one it was, but it was it was podcast, and they had like we have segments at the start. They have a segment in their podcast every single time, which is if Sean Bean was in this movie, which character would he be and how would he die?
Oh God.
Oh, poor Sean.
And I have to
Bean.
work out which podcast that is and put it on our Discord. But oh my God, it was funny.
nice. I like it.
Well, Robert, I think that is you because Ray kind of took mine, which was about him really like counting his meals and seeing when his death was approaching, and then breaking through that and getting in touch back into the NASA base, which was the same message, you know. That was my scene.
Cool. I think I know where. I think you guys know where I'm going to go with my answer. It's all. It seems like we're in a theme, right? Because although Gio, you feel that you know it was the same. It's slightly it's your point of view that I'm after. So that even though it's the same concept as your point of view, I'm gonna go similar to that as well, and that I think is a testament to the film. To me, I'm gonna echo what Ray says about his perseverance. It's his ability to like, you have that holy crap moment, right? And thank you, Ray. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I broke the podcast again with the ticker.
Oh, good. Okay. So going back to my train of thought before I go derailed again. The way that, when he reaches the moment, right? That holy crap moment. This is real. This is really bad, right? And you can even see the despair. But he doesn't give up, like Ray mentioned. And he's able to compose himself and think the problem out. Kind of like what he said, and I think what he mentioned at the end of the film was perfect, because this is how, you could see him going throughout the entire film. And I think this is one of the things that I enjoy watching this film multiple times, like I have, is seeing someone that realize, he's done for, right? And he has this moment, which you are allowed to have.
Oh yeah.
This isn't a crap moment. Oh my God, you cry, you do whatever you want to. You are allowed to have that moment, right? And then you think it out and you list all the issues. You list all the problems. And what he said at the end of the film was so poignant, where he says, basically that you kind of list the issues. You solve this, and then you move on to the next, and then you solve that, and then you move to the next. And eventually you'll solve enough problems that you get to go home. And I think that's such an important message, because humans, we are conditioned to get impacted by the negative things, and the positive things we kind of overlook. But the way that
Or take
negative
for
things,
granted.
yes, exactly. The way that we take negative, it's so impactful And it varies obviously from person to person. But it's like I always said, strong emotions are the enemy of rational thinking. It doesn't matter
True.
what emotion, right? However, I feel that negative anything has a more of an impact on that context than the positive. And it's very easy to get lost, especially when a dire situation and just give up. It's very easy for some people. And I really appreciate how he has the presence of mind. And of course, I'm talking about a character in a film, right? A character in a book. But he has very, very big relevance to how we as humans behave in a similar situation.
Hmm.
And those who win are those who are able to analyze the issue and don't take the entire thing and try to solve it. You'll never be able to. But the ability to pick a small chunk and solve, and then go to the next and solve, and eventually, with enough time, solve the entire riddle and turn your negative situation, your dire situation, into a positive one. And that is, to me, it's so cool. And as a human, we're not all perfect. And I admit that, I'm lacking in that. And I'm sure I know a lot of people, but it is something that would be worth to try to put into practice on your day to day. And that's pretty much where I went with, and of course, a lot of crying on the dire, the dire situation, because I put myself in his shoes. But that's where my impression of this film is, where he's able to do this, and so cool that he actually pointed out at the end of the film.
Just to give you some real world example of that, Apollo 11 had a issue with pre-launch check of the Eagle lander to return to orbit of the moon, and they actually had to do on the spot repairs using a pen to fix a switch that had broken. And if they hadn't been able to manage that, they wouldn't have been able to get off the planet. They would have run out of food and air, and the history would have been very different.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It happens. I mean, and Apollo 13, oh boy, that was a mess. So, I mean, as they said at the end of the movie, space is dangerous. And it's not there to help you out, it's there to kill you. So you've got to be ready to deal with it. And I mean, we kind of treat our lives here on Earth as fairly safe, and in a lot of ways, especially with the nanny states that some of us live in, not everybody gets to carry a gun in Australia, but obviously you guys can. But yeah, nanny states, they're a double-edged sword in that, there's a lot of protections, but there's a lot of removal of people's ability and practice of solving problems in emergency situations. People get so immune to thinking that anything bad could happen that they don't have first aid certificates, and they don't think clearly about these things because everything's been done for them. And the moment that it's not, they just fall to pieces because they don't have the experience and the knowledge and the practice to deal with these things. So, it's the difference between an office worker and, somebody who goes hiking in the mountains. The person who goes hiking in the mountains would have a first aid certificate. They'd have all sorts of knowledge of dangerous areas and what to look for and all this sort of stuff. And an office worker would know how to unjam a photocopier. So, I think that people should get out there and experience some things, but they should do it safely and get some real world knowledge and be able to deal with your own problems, because there won't always be someone there to do it for you. That's part of growing older and getting wiser.
Yeah, this idea of compartmentalization, I think that you're kind of alluding to over there, is very well presented just in like the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie. Like just after Watney wakes up after he was knocked out, and he notices, okay, I've got a little harpoon antenna thing in my gut. The air in my spacesuit is going down, and the first thing that occurs to him, he doesn't think, oh, I'm stranded on Mars. He thinks, all right, what do I do to solve this immediate problem in front of me?
Yep.
And he completely compartmentalizes all his mental energy toward dealing with that. So he gets it, he gets to the habitat, he gets the thing out of his gut, and then he just kind of sits down, sighs, and contemplates the situation. And he's just, yeah, and can completely sympathize with what he's going through right there. But the way he just remains laser focused on what's exactly in front of him and what the priorities are is, I thought, really
Exactly.
impressively done. Yeah.
Your prioritization is a very important skill, which a lot of people don't have. You
Yeah.
need to be able to examine a situation and go, what is the absolute priority? Saving lives? Yes. Do that first. Once the lives are stable, then you can start thinking about the bigger problems. But keeping people alive is the first priority.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And yeah, compartmentalizing that kind of, not getting overwhelmed by overanalysis.
Yep. And honestly, it doesn't mean that he will not feel that if he allows himself. Is that he understands the detriment that represents at the end of the day, you know? So he's being practical and logical over emotion. And it pays off very nicely. I mean, and I love that he did, because I do it a lot. Like when I'm doing art or I'm having a problem, you just step aside, step back, and look at it and try to take perspective from the whole issue. And I mean, we all do that one way or another when we're dealing with problems ourselves. So it kind of connects with you, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that we are going to move on to the last question of the show, only because I am afraid of the next segment.
You wouldn't believe how many tabs I've got open. You just would not believe.
Okay.
I'm so
I just noticed what the next section is. Now I understand.
Uh-huh.
I am so
And the listeners and viewers, they know where we're going. They're like, oh, it could get long.
Yeah, I did, but I kind of let it slip my mind.
So the question that we asked, the last question that we ask on the show is your last thoughts. And this, could represent many different answers depending on how many times you watched it. So it is the last thoughts that you want to leave the audience with about your experience and also everything in general with the IP that we just watched. And anyone can go first. I don't know who wants to take the lead, or
Let our guest go first, I think.
would you like to go first, Nate? It's just your experience, your final thoughts. Anything.
I'm
you
going to
wanna-
defer to Ray on this one because I have to think about the
Oh,
question
really?
for a moment.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I can go.
Okay. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you go, Gio.
Well, this movie, like I tell you, it's kind of in between movie that I like and comfort TV, like movies that I always go back to. This movie I've watched at least 12 to 15 times since it came out. I really like the message that it has. I think that is can be enjoyed. It's intense throughout the breakthrough of all the process until he gets saved. Actually, uh, and it's a beautiful movie. It has a beautiful message about union and humanity, which we always need very much. I think that it's a movie that can be enjoyed with the family, uh, but not with little kids. It can be strong for little kid. But also I think that if you enjoy sci-fi, this movie is the perfect place to go because they took very very serious the hard science on it. To the point, this movie, if I'm not mistaken, has been spoken about by even big names like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, uh, where he actually got their attention how well made the movie was done. I listened to Star Talk, and they actually did mention this one, Interstellar. Uh, and I mean, it's a fabulous movie, and you get to learn a lot of things because of that single-handed fact too. That you have actually real facts, science in it. Um, and I would definitely watch it again, probably.
Cool, cool. Let me know if you want me to go next, or any of you.
I get to pick.
Uh,
Throw a virtual dart,
well,
Captain Chaos.
I'll throw my hat into the ring, as they say here in Australia. This movie ticks a lot of boxes for me. I'm kind of scratching my head as to why I hadn't watched it before this. Mars is a big sort of topic right now in science. One thing that this movie completely glosses over or misses because it was made before it really became relevant is the Starship program for SpaceX, and how that would impact things. Because if I had to put a bet on who was going to get there first, I would think that SpaceX would get there rather than Artemis, just because they seem a little more driven. Really, it's a case of if SpaceX has a few rockets blow up and they have to stop for a while, then Artemis might get there first. You just don't know. But basically, when a movie is trying to predict the future, there's things that can happen, like the advent of a whole nother space agency just about working on technology to get us to Mars, that wasn't they just weren't aware of when they created the movie. So having something predicted and having it turn out exactly the way it's been predicted is very unlikely, but it still has that feeling. And this movie really does feel grounded. It feels like they spent the time and got the NASA people on board and looked at all the designs, and beyond the speed of the wind, which they ramped up a little bit to threaten the ship so it had to leave, I couldn't really fault it. I thought that, and especially with a movie that's as sciencey as this one, if something is really obviously bullshit, it throws me straight out. I'm thrown straight out of the movie. I'm like, that's shit. But that didn't happen in this movie. This movie really hangs together well. And it's not just, for the science aficionados among us. Hi. But it's got a lot of good messages. It's got a lot of good emotional scenes. There you go, Robert. You're covered. It's got a whole bunch of chaos. There you go, Captain Chaos. You're covered. I don't know what your thing is, Nate, but I'm sure it probably covered ticked a few boxes for you as well. But I mean, the visuals were great. The 3D was great. If you could get to watch it in 3D, I highly recommend it. If it's one of those things your eyeballs can deal with. It was well worth watching 3D, and I will watch it again. It is a good all-rounded movie, and I was very impressed with it. And again, I'm kicking myself that I haven't watched it before this. But I for once I got to be the today years old guy. So that was fun. A bit of a different take. And I will be watching this movie again because it is quite good. It ticks a whole lot of boxes. It's not pandering to any messages. It's just straight up good sort of Castaway type adventure in space. If you like the movie Castaway, you will like this. It's got that vibe. And if you're into the science of surviving on Mars, give this a look because it's right up your alley.
Awesome. Okay. I don't know if you have anything to add, Nate. I can go to.
I can't decide if I want to reread the book now because I'm talking right now. and watching I really enjoyed the movie.
I know the
And I
feeling. I had the
remember,
same feeling with Lord of the Rings.
yeah, and I'm like, oh, geez, my memory of the book is incomplete enough such that it's hard for me to actually compare them except on a very kind of feeling basis. And I remember the book had a lot of narration in it, and the movie had less so, but that's of necessity. And I don't know if reading the book would ruin the movie or um, if it would deepen my understanding and make me appreciate the movie more, or how that would work. But yeah, the question I'm left with is, oh, do I reread the book right now, or do I just let sleeping dogs lie and enjoy the movie for what it was and not take the risk of spoiling it?
I think I understand where you're coming from, and so far, knock on wood, my experience has been, and this is why I'm like, I know Ray is kicking himself in the head for not watching this earlier, but this is one of the few movies that I would love to see the book. I read the book first and then watch the movie, because it has been in my experience so far, right, where when you watch the film or TV show, whatever that might be, after reading the material, it's like you have a window into the brain of the characters. And I really enjoy that. And this is something that did not happen for me in this film because I did not read the book yet.
Mhm.
But it sounds to me from your explanation of how the book is that this would be perfect because of the fact that there's a lot of internal monologue. And that's the best way that you can understand a character, when there's a lot more material to comprehend and understand that person, that character. Does that make sense?
Also, I
Oh
wanted
yeah.
to add to that Robert says that usually when you read the book and you watch the movie, you are more able to put aside if they divert something. But when you watch the movie and then you read the book, it's different. Like when you read the book first, it creates an expectation of what to see in the movie, and if that is not
Yeah.
fulfilled somehow, you feel let down.
Yeah. Well, the key to that is just have very little in terms of expectations when watching a TV series or a movie based on a book that you really
Yes.
enjoyed. And that's fine.
Yep.
They're different experiences, which
Yeah,
is good. And so
I learned that the hard way.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Robert and
Done
I
that,
were gonna
burnt
do
the
the
t-shirt.
what, Ray?
Been there, done that, burnt the t-shirt.
We had this policy: if we don't like something, we better don't make an episode. We don't want to make an episode trash talking anybody's IP. We were gonna
Oh yeah.
do the time traveler machine. It was by
Well, that was, let me explain. That was kind of like a joke that backfired, right? Because I wanted to do the
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells, The Time Machine, right?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
But if you have read the book, you know that the version of the movie to watch is a 1960s version, right? But what do? I
He
show.
grabs the Disney one, a new one.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the book. Nothing to do with the book.
So yes, that happened. So we should go back and revisit that and just do it for real and just do the 60s version. I think, I don't know
Yeah,
if you watched it, Chaos, yet,
I
but
have
if you
not.
do,
I have not. I would
go
like
ahead
to.
and go find it and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I
Okay.
will.
We both read the book first,
Yeah.
and that's why poor Chaos was in tears when he was watching the
The movie. I was like, this is not my book.
I was doing the Clockwork Orange on him. Poor thing.
Oh.
So yeah, Ray missed that. That was in season 1. Okay, so is it my turn now?
Yes, sir.
Mm.
So
If you can find anything else to sum up, sure.
well, my last thoughts on the film, it's I would have to echo what every one of you have said so far. I is 100% with you and everything you mentioned. Um, this movie it's a perfect example of a science movie done right. Um, the emotions, n- the challenges, because per se you did not have a bad guy in this film. You had the bad guy became the bad situation. And then seeing how the science was all around done right, but also seeing the human aspect on this film done right. Um, in a way, and the reason why I say done right is done in a way that you could feel it, you could relate. You know this is what this is going. Oh God, you guys have to subscribe for YouTube. I'm telling you. And there goes my train of thought. So
You broke the podcast
That's-
again, Ray.
That's
You broke
three
it.
for me. This pod.
oh, he's
Ray's on
breaking me.
fire today.
He's breaking me. So yeah, this film, if you like science fiction, I think is almost a requirement. I would find it.
And if you don't, why are you listening to us?
Well, yeah. But
Because of me.
Oh, okay.
if it wasn't for Ray telling me that he has not watched it before, I would not understand why a sci-fi person have not watched this film earlier. But what I'm trying to say is, it's a must. Give yourself a treat and go watch it. This is weirdly enough wholesome, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You could say that.
Considering the bad situation that was happening here. I'm going to be broken by the end of this episode.
That's the plan.
I think it's a thoroughly wholesome film. I couldn't interpret it any other way.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no negative message here at all.
I loved it when the I can't remember the characters' names, but the lass kissed the helmet of the other guy, the one guy that was planting the explosive.
Oh, that was
and then
All
she
right.
said, "Don't tell anybody." And then right at the end, it showed that they were having a baby together. They got married and were having a baby. So
I didn't catch
super
that.
wholesome. You didn't? Jesus
didn't.
Christ! I've only watched it once.
Well, I didn't pay attention to that ending very much.
I was wondering if that was like a thing for the long version of the theatrical trailer. Which version did you watch, Ray?
Well, my version wasn't 3 hours, so
Oh, okay. Because
the 3D version wasn't the extended version, as
okay.
far as I know.
I thought that was like part of the extended version. I didn't know that it was a regular part of the film.
I don't know now.
I don't know. I
Maybe.
might be mistaken. That might explain why Nate didn't
Mhm.
because that was a
It
lot.
totally didn't register. It makes complete sense, but it just did not register for me.
Yeah. So yeah, this I invite everybody to go in and go into our Discord. Go into our Discord and watch the movie and talk to us. Let us know what you think. I honestly think that if you are a sci-fi fan, and I like to think you are because you're watching us or listening to our pod. I honestly think you're gonna love this film if you had never watched it before. Notice how I said if you never watched it, because prior to this whole episode, I would have say, oh, if you're a sci-fi lover, you've probably seen this movie. Nope,
Mhm.
that's not the case.
I hope you've watched it before we spoiled it for you anyway.
I also want to take the opportunity to ask Nate to let our audience know where they can find you and listen to yours, to your podcast too. So let us know in here, website or your preferred social media platform, so that way when they're watching or listening, they can go and check you out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my podcast is Sci-Fi Throwdown, SCI-FI space Throwdown, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and the normal platforms. Also, social media wise, Threads and Instagram are the best way to get in touch with us. And there, our handle
Nice.
is Sci-Fi Throwdown, all one word. So Sci-Fi Throwdown _podcast. So
Nice.
thanks again for having me on, guys. Now I'm looking
It
forward
was a
to
pleasure,
Ray
man.
going crazy.
I never go crazy. I'm always
happened
thinking
already.
logically, and
You've been
It
foaming
happened
at the
already.
mouth for like 10 minutes now.
no.
It happened already.
So, are we ready for the next segment?
Maybe.
Science and sci-fi.
Now you got to remember, guys, that when I was off in hospital having open heart surgery, the fun that I had. Can you see? Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The scar. The scar. But anyway,
They made it. They already made it a stick man.
Yeah.
Little
while I
guy.
was getting chopped up and having fun, these guys took over the Science Behind Science Fiction, did a bang up job of coming up with science. So I don't feel like this is my segment alone anymore. You guys have earned your science jocks and Under Armour or whatever you want to call it. So,
Can I wear a lab coat now?
yeah, sure.
Okay, cool.
Especially if you're doing something messy, you should always wear protective gear. Okay, so I don't even know where to start. There's so much stuff.
Yes, I agree with you.
So the podcast is now at 2 hours and 40 minutes. When we get to 5 hours, please let us know.
I hope not.
No, I'll contain myself. I'll try.
Yes, I
Do you
had
guys-
to. Go ahead.
Do you guys have catheters?
My bladder just enjoys science, so it waits for me.
I never had surgery in my life.
You are better men than I.
Okay, so I'll share this one so our YouTube viewers get extra content. But basically, this is a GIF showing the orbits. We talked a little bit about this in the main section, and so I wanted to bring it up here in the sciencey part. But of course, the Earth and Mars have different rotational speeds around the sun, being that they are different sizes, different masses, and different distances. So the path that Mars takes is longer than the Earth. And interesting that Mars is roughly half the size of Earth, diameter-wise, and takes roughly twice as long to go around. So when Mars does one loop, Earth has done two. Roughly, I'm generalizing here, but it's roughly that much. So you can see by this GIF that there's a point where Earth and Mars are quite close together, and then there's a point coming up about here where they're both furthest apart that they can get, and on opposite sides of the sun to each other. So obviously, when they're talking about how long it's going to take to get to Mars and where the transit windows are, it is very much scientific fact that Elon Musk has talked about this, in that there's a certain number of transit windows before 2035 that he wants to try and utilize with Starship in getting to Mars. He's got a little ways to go yet. He's got to make the thing work properly first. But once he gets it going, he wants to be sending his starships to Mars, either manned or unmanned, depending on how they started out, to get gear up there first and then people. So it's very interesting in a sort of astrophysics sense about how these two planets move, and obviously there's good times to go and bad times to go, which had an impact in this movie as far as rescuing poor old Watney. Now you think, oh yeah, that's complicated enough, but no, it gets more complicated. Let's make it more complicated. Mars's orbit is changing. It is slowly getting more ovoid. So it's not running around the sun at an even distance as the Earth is, but it has actually got close. There's a period where it's closer and a period where it's further away from the sun. And of course, that means it adjusts the distance between ourselves and Mars as well. So all that has to be taken into consideration when you're working out fuel loads and acceleration and braking. And you don't aim towards the planet where it is now. You aim towards where the planet will be when you get there, because there's no point in getting to where the planet is now when it's moved on. So yeah, planning this sort of stuff. This is why the guy had to go down and use a supercomputer to verify his calculations, because it's a lot of calculations. So I was very impressed with that in the way they talked about this this movie as far as the science of getting to and from Mars was concerned. It was quite quite legitimate, and I appreciated that. Now, there's a whole bunch of things, and this is more on the colonizing side. I mean, going to Mars, picking up some rocks and some dirt and doing a few experiments and then leaving again. That's all well and good. The human body can deal with that okay. Colonizing Mars and staying there for long periods, however, is a whole nother kettle of fish. Now my tabs are so small that I can't read them, so I don't know which one to pick next. That's orbit stuff. I think it's these three. Anyway, so University of California.
We lost Ray in the tabs.
In the tabs. I told you I had a lot of tabs open. So the University of California, San Francisco has an article here. Traveling to Mars will wreak havoc on our bodies. Can we prevent it? Now, I've brought this up in other discussion of other IPs where people were spending long periods in space or going to other planets. And of course, I'm not the only one who's brought this up. Robert's been talking about the loss of bone density and all those sorts of things. And just going to the International Space Station, just going up a little bit and hanging out in orbit causes all sorts of havoc for long-term stays on the International Space Station. They have to spend significant amounts of time every day exercising to maintain their muscle mass. And I can tell you from having had to lie on,
4 hours.
yeah, it's a long period. I can't remember exactly the number of hours, but it's significant. Now I can tell you that I've been interested in lifting weights for several years, and I was doing pretty well. I was lifting 18 kilos on the barbell several times a week. And when I had to go in for open heart surgery, and then I spent 5 days in intensive care, and then I was on the ward for another couple of weeks. And then I got home and I was like in a geriatric the way I could move. I'm a lot better now, but it was hard to sit down on the toilet. That's how bad it was. In that period where I wasn't able to exercise, I probably lost about 90% of the gains that I'd made from lifting weights for a year and a half, which was hugely depressing. I'm still, slowly working my way back to getting those back. But that's on Earth at 1 atmosphere and normal gravity. And all I had to do was not use those muscles for a month and I lost them, right? Now, you take away normal gravity and normal atmospheric conditions, and the body is not going to deal well with that. We are creatures of our environment. We exist in 1 atmosphere down on the surface of the Earth. We have 1 gravity. We have evolved into that environment. It is the water we swim in. Day to day, we do not recognize it because it never changes. But if you go into an environment where it does change, like going out into space or going to Mars, your body is going to freak out. And that's just the basic situation that anybody going to Mars and trying to spend a long time there is going to have to deal with. I mean, even just going there for a visit will wreak havoc on your body. But trying to stay there, that's where the real challenge lies in things like bone density, muscle mass, circulation, all sorts of things in your body are going to react poorly to not being in the water that you swim in, the environment on the surface of our planet Earth. So this is a big thing that we've got to overcome. And I don't want to labor the article here, but yeah, your cardiovascular system has trouble functioning if it's not under one gravity. You can get swelling in your legs because your body is designed to work against gravity, and your muscles move in your legs to pump it's no longer your blood. It becomes more like your interstitial fluid, which is the plasma that comes out of your blood and goes into surround your cells to provide them with nutrients and to take away their toxins, and then that returns to your body through the venous system, and that whole system doesn't function properly if you're not under gravity. So you can get swelling in various parts of your body where fluid is not supposed to pool, because the gravity is supposed to help move it around your body, and it's no longer doing that. You can get blood clots in the brain because the blood doesn't move out of the brain properly, because the blood is supposed to drain from the brain via gravity feed. And if you take the gravity, you don't get the feed. So you end up with huge problems with your circulatory system. And of course, if you're on Mars, you've got about 1/3 gravity, or a little bit less. That is going to mean that it's going to be working at 1/3 the efficiency that it normally does, or less. These can cause all sorts of problems. And this is why Robert was laboring the point of gravity manipulation. If we can manipulate gravity, then we have a much greater chance of surviving on Mars than if we can't. And that's just facts. So it's hugely important.
But without gravity, play really good b-ball on Mars.
Oh, for sure. But did you notice in the movie, and of course, I know Nate didn't. I don't know if you noticed anything that I've brought up so far. Sorry, man.
No, you just picked up details that I didn't.
When I noticed at one point when he was walking back from the rover to the HAB, he had weights on the outside of his spacesuit around his feet. Now, you might think like, being on a planet with less gravity, I can jump really high and I can bound around the place. No, it's not as easy as that. There are videos of the astronauts trying to run on the moon, and they ended up face planting most of the time, because once you don't have the gravity pulling you back down, you have a lot less control of your gait. Your gait is your walking regularity, like the pace of your walking. You have much less control of your gait, and just maintaining your center of balance is really hard, because you're no longer working in the environment that you're used to. On Earth, people fall over, but if you're in an environment you're not used to, you're going to fall over a heck of a lot more. And the moon's got much less gravity than Mars because it's a lot smaller, but even with 1/3 gravity, you're going to be moving in a way that you're not used to. So you're going to have to adjust the way you move, and putting weights on your legs so that your body is heavier, so that your gait can be more like it is on Earth. Basically, if you've got 1/3 gravity but you're 3 times heavier, then you could walk normally, because it scales. But obviously, he had weights around his legs to make him a bit heavier, but not so much that momentum would be a problem, because your musculature is used to moving a certain mass. And if you triple that mass, your musculature is not going to be able to deal with that particularly well. So you want to weigh yourself down a bit so you're not as floaty, but you don't want to weigh yourself down so much that you can no longer move yourself. So there's sort of a trade-off. But he had weights around the outside of his spacesuit on his legs to hold him down a bit more, so that he could walk more normally than he would be if he was just his normal way to be spacesuiting himself, and he would be bounding and then losing control of his center of gravity because he didn't have a normal gait. He couldn't walk normally. His muscles couldn't handle the difference.
So that's what happened to John Carter then.
Yes, exactly. John Carter's a perfect example. And really, John Carter would have gone sproing, splat.
Yes.
He wouldn't have gone pointer, 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 pointer. He would have gone boing, splat. Because you just don't have the control. You're not a human flea. That's not how humans work.
Virginia, suck.
I mean, it's a cute idea, but in reality, things don't work that easily. People go splat more often than they land correctly. So yeah, and yeah, that was a big sort of thing in John Carter that he could jump around because he was used to gravity, which was 3 times. But yeah, he jumped way further than 3 times the normal ability to leap. So yeah, it was fun, but it wasn't particularly accurate. Whereas this show was far more accurate, and they had a whole lot more things that made a whole lot more sense than a show like John Carter.
Yep, I agree.
Now, here's a Northrop Grumman web page called Now, and they're talking about Mars exploration, 3 problems science needs to solve first. And this was released in November 2020. And they're talking about access to water, which is locked in rocks and sand, thin atmosphere. We've just sort of gone over that a little bit already, but it's now they're talking about in millibars. Earth is 1,013.25 millibars, and Mars is 6.1 millibars. So that's a huge difference. I did have a page open. Where was it? Okay, here it is. So I asked Google how many atmospheres is the air pressure on Mars, and it's 0.006 atmospheres. So Earth at sea level is 1 atmosphere, and I specify at sea level, and that's because it changes as you get higher. It may not make sense to people, but air is a physical substance. It doesn't feel like it because the atoms are so far apart and the molecules are so far apart that you can wave your arms through it. But you wave your arm through it like this, and you can feel it. There's something there, and it's moving away from your arm as you move it. That is the air, and it has a pressure. It is pushing down, and basically, because of gravity, is pulled towards the surface. So at the surface, it is at its highest pressure. You're standing next to the sea. That's the highest air pressure that you're going to feel on Earth. So that pressure is pushing down as the molecules are stacked on top of each other. But the higher you go, there's less molecules stacked on top of each other. So the pressure pushing down on you is less. So as you leave the surface of the Earth and go up, the atmosphere thins and becomes less than 1 atmosphere. So there will be a point somewhere up close to space where the Earth's atmosphere is 0.006 atmospheres. But it is a long way up. But Mars has very little atmosphere. There's not a whole lot of pressure pushing on you, which is another reason why you could probably jump a bit higher. That might make up the difference, but I don't know how they were breathing in John Carter. That is, but yeah. So air, that's a different one. So thin atmosphere is one of the huge problems, and of that thin atmosphere, most of it's carbon dioxide. So there's not much to breathe. There is a little bit of oxygen, 0.13% oxygen, and that is 0.13% of 0.006 atmospheres. So the number of atoms of oxygen in that atmosphere is very low, much lower than you'd think, because there's 2 factors. There's the thickness of the atmosphere and the percentage of it is made up of oxygen. So it's very little. It's not enough to breathe. And very little nitrogen. The Earth's atmosphere is very high in nitrogen, which is what they call a noble gas. So it doesn't react very much, which is probably just as well, because you wouldn't want it reacting or our entire atmosphere would go foof.
Yeah. Like oxygen.
There have been periods on Earth where the percentage of oxygen in the atmosphere has been much higher, and it has caused massive fires. like fires raging out of control because too much oxygen. As soon as you get a spark from a lightning strike, the fires just get ridiculous because they're fed with too much oxygen.
Or Captain Chaos. So you gotta keep
Yeah.
chaos from oxygen.
But I mean, really, we are creatures evolved for exactly the way the Earth is right now. And the moment that our environment is not like Earth, we start to suffer. And you can see that the environment here on Mars is quite different. Now, here's another one that is affected by the lack of a decent magnetosphere on Mars. Mars isn't completely magnetically inert. It has little bubbles of magnetism around the surface. And I can't remember exactly why, but they're not very strong, but they're still there. It might be magnetic rocks causing these little bubbles, but it's nothing like the Earth's magnetosphere, which is caused by rotating core of liquid metal, iron and nickel in the core of the Earth. So the Earth has a solid core and an outer core, which is liquid, and that one moves.
They call it the tectonic plates.
No,
right?
no. This is the core. This is not the tectonic plates. Tectonic plates are the skin, like the skin of the apple.
Yeah.
This is
You're
the
right.
core of the
That's
apple
right,
where the
that's
seeds are, right? So
That's right.
it's moving, and the fact that it moves, if you know anything about electromagnetism, it creates a magnetic field, and that magnetic field spreads out from the poles and goes out around the Earth and comes back in again and creates a type of shield for a lot of the radiation that would otherwise kill us dead.
Like
If we ever lose our magnetic field, we are screwed so badly. You would not believe it. You think sunburn in the middle of summer is bad. You ain't seen nothing.
Mentioning the conversation earlier that you were saying also about how extenuous is in the body being outside. Anybody that is curious about the effects of outer space, just go and check out on YouTube. Look for Scott Kelly and his brother. They're twin brothers. Scott Kelly spent the most time in outer space. I think 368 days.
He was on the International
And it
Space
took him-
Station, wasn't he?
Yeah, and it took it. He and his brother are identical twins. It took him over 5 years to recover from the damages on his body of outer space.
And that's just in orbit.
And just in orbit
It
for 1
wasn't
year.
deep
Only
space.
that.
He was still within the
No.
magnetic field of the Earth.
Basically, he will get migraines. His body will swollen out of nowhere because he was not used to gravity anymore. And he lost, I think, 14% of his bone mass.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
It's not just learning to deal with space. You have to learn to deal with coming back.
Yeah. No, and your body literally had to be reconstructed if you can, because the other thing is your health condition. If you have poor health condition, things like rebuilding bone mass and more than 10%, that's scary, man.
Yeah, like osteoporosis.
But that's
become.
That's very interesting, and that's in YouTube, and you can find it. It's very enlightening to the bad effects that outer space.
So this is what anybody who goes to Mars is going to have to deal with, because you're going to be out of the Earth's environment for a significant period, and if you move there permanently, so we don't even know how people's bodies are going to end up reacting, whether people will be able to survive, how long they're going to be able to survive up there. It could be, shortening your life by decades if you move to Mars. We don't know.
Oof.
So it's something.
If you don't have a magnetic field like that protects you from the radiation of the outer space,
It's something to seriously consider. I mean, it says here under high levels of radiation in this article, our sun and other stars are essentially fusion reactors that spew out abundant amounts of electromagnetic energy, including X-rays and ultraviolet radiation. So the Earth has a magnetic field which blocks a lot of that, but Mars does not. So you're going to be copying up to 700 times higher radiation doses than on the surface of the Earth if you're on the surface of Mars. That's what the European Space Agency has estimated at this time. So, it's like living in a microwave.
And that's regardless of the atmosphere. Because many people think, okay, what if we reactivate the atmosphere on, because it's very light? Nope, it has nothing to do with that. It's just the planet.
Well, it's not the atmosphere that particularly stops the radiation; it's the magnetic field which bounces it away.
Exactly.
And that interaction can be seen in the aurora borealis and the aurora australis, which is the high energy particles giving off light as they're bounced off the magnetic field. So that's a visual representation of that process in action.
Yeah. So the shields from Star Trek on planet Earth.
Pretty much. And I mean, our planet is not the only one that you will see auroras coming from. I mean, Jupiter, you can see massive auroras as well because it has a magnetic field. But obviously, we can't live on the surface of Jupiter because it doesn't have one. Because it's, or if it does have one, it's so far down that the pressure will crush you horribly.
Yeah.
So you won't be living there. But yeah, so there's a lot of websites out there. You can Google all this sort of stuff about, the difficulties of living on Mars. Here's one from Scientific American about the ethics of sending people to Mars, and talking about, who gets to have chunks of Mars, how it would be divvied up, all that sort of thing. And that was kind of covered in our quote at the start of the show about the HAB belonging to NASA, but the surface of Mars functionally being international waters. So at this point in time, that's the law, but obviously laws change as situations change. So there may be a whole bunch of lawmakers attempting to make laws about sharing Mars. But if Antarctica's any indication, they probably won't be able to come to an agreement because Antarctica has been there for as long as people have been on the planet. We still can't decide how to divvy it up. So people are still arguing about divvying up Antarctica and what you can and can't do there. So, Mars, I don't hold out much hope that we'll be able to decide about that. I mean, really, it'll come down to who gets there first and if anybody else can actually get there. If NASA get there first and it's not an international thing, then it'll be American, basically. They may involve other countries' astronauts, but if everything that gets up there belongs to America or NASA, then it's American. But if China puts something up there, then there may be conflict up on Mars. We may see Martian wars, or people fighting up there over land or resources or what have you.
And we might see Alita,
Yeah,
number 99.
could do. I don't know. As much as I love Alita, I think it's a little bit far-fetched at this point. But I mean, the technology that Kishiro came up with for them to survive on Mars, he didn't really deal with the whole gravity thing. But he basically said a lot of people on Mars were cyborgs, which was probably to deal with the fact that their bodies were falling to pieces because of the low gravity. But they also had this thing where they had a shield which was grown. I don't know exactly how the technology was supposed to work, but basically it created these individual cells, and each one of them belonged to a particular government, and they'd fight over them, but they weren't supposed to damage them. But there was one scene in one of the manga where one of them was broken open, and it suddenly depressurized, and it was really bad news. But that was basically a physical canopy to stop the atmosphere from escaping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like pretty serious engineering to create some sort of canopy to hold an atmosphere on a planet.
Yeah.
I don't
always
know.
envisioned the initial colonies on Mars will have to be underground, the initial ones, to protect from radiation.
Yeah. I think going subsurface would be the smart move if you're trying to get rid of some of the issues rather than trying to deal with them all at once. And of course, gravity manipulation would be great if we could manage that.
Hell yeah. I'll make a trampoline with it so I can jump and it just bounce me off.
You bounce to orbit. Going, what? Oh dear.
We gotta cover the Mars TV show eventually, because they cover a lot of that within that universe. We get to see how they build the initial colonies underground. It was just a really interesting watch. So maybe we can
Oh yeah.
cover that in the future.
Nate, have you watched The Expanse?
Yeah. I watched up to season
Okay.
6, and it's maybe a couple episodes into season 6. I couldn't anymore.
Oh man, what a
Yeah.
shame. We actually watch it.
Yeah.
There's books too, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Are you guys fans of The Expanse or not?
I never. Oh, we
We got
love
an
Okay,
it.
episode.
yeah. The first few seasons were amazing, really
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and my understanding is a lot of the science there is fairly on point as well.
Well,
Yeah.
the Belters couldn't survive on Earth. They were
Right.
tall and thin and gangly, and obviously they didn't have the muscle mass or bone density to manage one gravity.
Which was very interesting that they actually countered that by putting them in water, so they wouldn't feel the gravity. That was very smartly done, if you think
Yeah.
about it.
Well, added buoyancy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Another film that I really want us to cover that talks about that specific thing. It's called, and I think I talked to Chaos about it. I'm not sure if I mentioned it to Ray yet. It's called The Space Between Us. It's from Netflix, where this kid was born in the spaceship that it was on its way to Mars. So when you could say he was born in space and grew up in Mars, because they were on the way to Mars when he was born. The mother died. So this kid,
He's definitely not an Earthling.
this kid can never come back to Earth, ever. And there was a part where he wanted to meet someone that he met online, because there is still communication. It's just delayed, right? And he actually came to Earth, and it's just the stuff that he went through, and how at the end he had to catch an emergency ride back home, otherwise he would have died. So yeah, it
Talk about if Robert likes drama or not.
it's interesting, because this is exactly what we're talking about. The effects
Yeah.
of if you're born, for example, on Mars, how you can no longer be on Earth.
No, how your exoskeletal structure just condition itself to what doesn't know gravity. So when you put gravity to it, it crushes it. It's crazy. Not only that, but for example, in Expansive, they mention the density of the air is different. So even that is affected by force of gravity.
Yeah.
Interesting enough.
Okay, so
I just wanted to add one last thing. Don't think I have a Debbie Downer about Mars. Any planet that humans attempt to colonize that's not Earth standard is going to cause us problems.
Yes.
And this is because we are evolved for one atmosphere and one gravity, which is, we measure it from what we know, which is Earth at the sea level. So, if we go to a larger rocky planet, like some of these ones they've seen in the TRAPPIST system, and if it's twice the size of Earth, so it has twice the gravity, we are going to suffer in the opposite direction.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, colonizing space is a wonderful dream, and it's a great idea, and the human diaspora and so forth and so on, but it's glossed over how complicated it's going to be. It's glossed over how difficult human survival is going to be outside of our known current adapted environment.
Yeah. And a lot of the problems are engineering problems, and that's one thing that the movie The Martian does really well. It serves as an excellent advertisement to get an engineering degree, because it presents these problems as not solved, but at least conceptually solvable, and even that places us one step closer.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess I want to say this concludes the show. But believe me, if you could look at our notes, we
Oh yeah, you had about 3 pages of stuff there that you could go over.
oh my God, yes. I mean, there's so many. This film is just filled with things, and what I'm going to do, I guess, in order for us to um, avoid making this any longer, I want to make an invitation to all of you to go into our Discord channel, and let's continue the conversation there. We have tons of scientific notes in here, and just go ahead and reach out to us in our Discord channel, and I can actually go over all the notes that I wrote, scientific notes, as well as the missing ones, because Raid had some notes that we didn't talk about either too, also within here. And let's continue the conversation there.
Yeah.
If you want to reach out through us on social media, anywhere you like to reach out to us, go ahead and we can continue this conversation there. It is one of the reasons why I love this film so much is because the amount of scientific topics that you could talk about. This could be like an entire season of our show if we're not if you don't watch. So
And
go ahead.
if you want to join our Discord, it is currently on the screen for those watching on YouTube. Scan the little doohickey and you can join us on Discord.
And if you are listening on the pod, there is a link in the description that you can click, and it will take us to our Discord. Take you to our Discord channel. There also is a website. You can either scan it if you're watching our YouTube channel right now, or you can just simply go to sciencefictionremnant.com. One of the cool things that I like doing on that site that I hope you guys enjoy is writing those articles. Very small articles, about 3-4 minutes to read. And I really enjoyed them. So I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do writing. And who knows, maybe one of those days in the future, you'll get an article from Chaos or Ray in there. So
I have an article in there.
yeah, but you're gonna
I haven't wrote again. I haven't written again, but I have an article there.
So, and we take guest writers also. So if you want to
Yes.
write on our site, about 3 minutes read time, just reach out to us on Discord, and you could be featured on one of our posts. If you want to help the show, we have a Patreon. So you can reach out. If you are watching our YouTube channel, you can just scan the code on the screen, and it takes you there. And you can help us out that way. Now, remember, our very own Captain Chaos needs to be caffeinated. He needs coffee. So please, please, please go to Buy Me a Coffee and buy him a coffee, please. We'll thank you immensely.
Supporting chaos is cool.
Yes.
Yeah, support Chaos. So with that, I want to say, Nate, thank you so much for being on our show. It has been a pleasure. I hope that we did not scare you enough that you can come back for another episode. We really love to have you back on this show. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, man. For real. It's been great.
Okay. Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I'd love to come back as well. So thanks once again.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Awesome.
Let us know what IP you want to do, and we'll schedule it.
Definitely.
Hey, this is your house. You choose, and I'll go along. Yeah, if you're all nice enough to be guests on my podcast, then I'll get to choose.
Definitely.
Absolutely, man.
We'll
Seems
love
fair.
Awesome.
So with that, I want to thank the audience. Thank you so much for listening in every week. You have no idea how much we appreciate you coming every week and listening to us or watching on our YouTube channel. We really, really appreciate it. And as you know, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. That is the honest truth. And we thank you. Thank you so much not only for being with us as long as you have through season 1 and now season 2, but also for your engagement. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope to see you in future episodes. Bye. Okay, and we are in